Chapter 130. Third update. The distance that had just been widened was once again closed in with a ferocious momentum. There are only a few votes left, but the distance in front is getting farther and farther. Brothers and sisters with monthly votes, please support and vote for Dark Mountain. Please. Star Shaking Fist. The majestic origin energy that had fused with the metal attribute of the 5 elements instantly condensed into a giant azure fist with a hint of gold. It was as fast as a shooting star as it blasted towards the oncoming dragon-tailed demon ox. Roar! The dragon-tailed demon ox roared angrily. It stomped on the ground with its 4 hooves, causing the rocks under its hooves to crumble and swirl in the air. It actually did not dodge. Instead, it straightened its sharp golden horns and ferociously welcomed the attack. Boom! With a loud bang, the fist shadow shattered. The dragon-tailed demon ox's huge body actually only paused for a moment before it once again approached Chen Hao with a howl. At the same time, a thick demonic aura pressed down from the sky. It was as heavy as a mountain, causing Chen Hao to feel as if his body had become 1,000 times heavier in an instant. It seemed as if it was extremely difficult for him to even move his feet. What a strong pressure! Boom! Just as the dragon-tailed demon ox's sharp golden horns were about to hit Chen Hao's body, Chen Hao's pupils contracted. He suddenly snorted coldly. In an instant, his essence chi directly pierced through the terrifying demonic aura pressure like a smoke signal. Demonic aura pressure was an ability that only level 6 demonic beasts possessed. It was not an attack, but it could use this kind of pressure to make it difficult for those of the same or lower level to move. According to Chen Hao's level, the intelligent dragon-tailed demon ox believed that it would definitely be able to kill Chen Hao under its demonic aura pressure. However, it did not expect that this human in front of it, whose level was clearly lower than its own, could easily break through its demonic aura restriction. That rising essence chi and battle intent was incomparably fierce. What made it even more shocked and angry was that this puny human practitioner actually fearlessly did not dodge or dodge. Instead, he slapped at its golden horns with one palm and brazenly punched at its head with the other. Bang bang! With 2 explosive sounds, Chen Hao flew into the air from the terrifying recoil. The dragon-tail demon ox's huge body also rolled twice before it stood up with a howl. It roared towards the sky and suddenly twisted its buttocks. Its huge, long tail covered in scales, with a swoosh, flashed with a crimson light and whipped towards Chen Hao in the air at lightning speed. Idiot, you're too slow. Swoosh! 2 cold lights suddenly shot out from Chen Hao's hands, and with a puff-puff sound, they pierced into the dragon-tailed demon ox's blood-red eyes. The moment the tail was about to touch Chen Hao's body, Chen Hao's figure flashed and rose straight up. Then, a majestic and terrifying yuan power suddenly flashed out from Chen Hao's body, bringing with it a faint yellow color. Get down! The enraged dragon-tailed demonic ox clearly felt as if a mountain was crashing down on it from the sky. It couldn't dodge even if it wanted to, as the opponent's speed was too fast. At this moment, a trace of fear began to spread in its heart. No matter what, it didn't expect that the human in front of it, who was obviously not at a high level and couldn't possibly break its defense, would be so powerful. Boom! The hair on the dragon-tail demon ox's back, which was as hard as steel needles, was directly broken. Its huge body was ruthlessly pressed to the ground with a bang. Bang bang bang, crack crack crack. Under Chen Hao's feet, the dragon-tail demon ox's internal organs were forcefully squashed. Dull explosive sounds and the sound of bones breaking came from its body. The dragon-tail demon ox didn't even have time to howl before it spat out countless blood clots with internal organs from its bloody mouth. A peak level 6 demonic beast can't even withstand a single blow. Chen Hao shook his head and said, "It seems that the demonic beast's level is divided according to the combat power of an ordinary practitioner. Compared to the genius disciples in the new talent competition, it's really too far away." Sensing that the demonic beast under him had already lost its breath of life, Chen Hao wielded a small knife and easily cut off the golden horn and tail from the demonic beast's body. Then he collected the demonic beast's inner core from its body and stored it in his storage ring. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, a crisp clap suddenly came from the void, causing Chen Hao to be shocked. Ha! Chen Hao, what a coincidence! I just came here and I met you. And this is the Chen Hao I told you about. Chen Hao frowned slightly and raised his head to look at the sky. Who else could it be but that idiot Dongfang Jun? Other than Dongfang Jun, there was also the trembling Dongfang Jian who seemed to be very nervous. And in between the two of them, there was a woman with a heavy aura, a cold expression, a proud and aloof expression, a beautiful appearance, and a graceful figure. Just by looking at her appearance, this woman was at most 20 years old. However, the way Dongfang Jun addressed her made Chen Hao clear that this woman's true age was at least 40 years old. The aura around him was restrained, causing Chen Hao to feel as if he was facing a vast ocean, unable to see the depth of his aura. Chen Hao, this is my aunt. Dongfang Jun trio slowly descended in front of Chen Hao and introduced. Greetings, senior. Chen Hao's expression was calm as he cupped his fists and said with a bow. You're little Jun's friend, so calling me aunt will do. However, the depths of the Cloud Mountain Range were truly dangerous places. Without the protection of a top expert, even he didn't dare to easily enter. This was because in the core of the mountain range, other than the dense concentration of level 6 demonic beasts, which was very suitable for martial emperor experts to train, level 7 or even level 8 demonic beasts would often emerge from the core. Level 7 was the martial ancestor realm, and level 8 was the martial saint realm. No matter how powerful Chen Hao was, he wasn't confident that he could fight against martial ancestor realm and martial saint realm. Even if it was an inferior grade martial ancestor, Chen Hao would be in great danger, not to mention the demonic beasts that appeared in groups in the depths. The four of them turned into 4 streaks of light and disappeared into the horizon. They wanted to set off towards the depths of the Cloud Mountain Range. After flying for a distance, Dongfang Ting retracted her aura and disappeared from the 3 of them. Chen Hao and the other 2 also split into 3 paths, separated by a few thousand meters, and entered the Cloud Mountain Range. Not long after Chen Hao and the others left, 3 figures flew towards the core of the Cloud Mountain Range as fast as lightning from a few hundred kilometers away. Crown Prince, are we really going to enter the core area? Are you afraid? Bit. Crown Prince, your cultivation is extremely high. It is not something that the 2 of us can compare to. If we were to encounter level 7 or 8 demonic beasts, just stay by my side. I only need a few life and death battles to break through to rank 8 Martial Emperor. We do not need to go too deep. This Crown Prince only wants to find a few level 7 demonic beasts to temper myself. After breaking through, we will return. With the 9 Revolution Monarch pellet, this Crown Prince will definitely be able to break through to rank 9 Martial Emperor before the start of the new talent competition. Even if we are to encounter powerful demonic beasts, with this Crown Prince's speed, bringing you all away will not be a problem. Let's go. The 2 of them answered. Although they appeared to be very respectful, they were feeling very displeased in their hearts. They knew Yi Mingho's temperament very well. If they were to truly encounter danger, it would already be great if he didn't have to use them as scapegoats. It was simply impossible for him to risk his life to save people. However, they did not dare to disobey the arrogant and overbearing Yi Mingho. Let's go deeper. I must become a rank 9 Martial Emperor in 3 months' time. In another location, after killing several level 6 demonic beasts without any challenge, a sharp voice of a rooster spoke to another youngster. It was the Star Luo Kingdom's Yin Fenghan and the other genius disciple who had obtained the qualifications. I don't want to die yet. I'll stay here and temper myself. After all, I have no hope of entering the 100 Empire rankings. If you want to go by yourself? Humph, spineless. I'll go by myself. Yin Fenghan's gaze was fierce and fiery. He turned into a ray of light and flew toward the depths of the Cloud Mist Mountain Range. Let's go our separate ways. If you succeed, immediately return to the new show hall to be recognized. There's no proof for your words. Rest assured, the one who will lose will definitely be you. Be careful, don't lose your life here before breaking through to Martial Ancestor Realm. What kind of joke is this? Li Feng, come with the wind and leave with the wind. As long as it's not a level 8 demonic beast, how could it be difficult for me? Yang Fan, actually, I truly wish to have a hearty battle with you to determine who is stronger. A gamble like this is truly meaningless. Hearing Li Yifeng's words, Yang Fan shook his head. He narrowed his ordinary eyes and said, wait until you can defeat an giant pain. You also know that when my sword is unsheathed, it will definitely be stained with blood. Motherfucker, can you not be so arrogant all the time? Goodbye. After Li Yifeng finished speaking, he turned into a ray of light and flew toward the depths of the cloud mist mountain range. Yang Fan lightly smiled. After seeing Li Yifeng disappear, his body slowly dissipated. It was as if he had merged with the wind and there was no movement at all. P.S. Are there any more monthly votes? It's about to explode. Everyone, please support Dark Mountain. Chapter 131. Other than Qin Hao's trio, Yi Mingho, Yin Fenghan, Yang Fan, and Li Feng, the top 10 experts of the Empire's new show hall, as well as many genius disciples aiming for the 100 Empire rankings, had all chosen the most dangerous Cloud Mountain range. As he went deeper and deeper, Chen Hao's speed became slower and slower. What entered his eyes was a vast expanse of grayness and fog. His vision, perception, and hearing were all greatly restricted. Even with Chen Hao's abnormal physical talent, he could only sense the aura within 100 feet radius. Accompanied by the occasional roar of the demonic beasts, the aura of the demonic beasts in the area became more and more intense. The desire to battle hidden in the depths of Chen Hao's heart also burned fiercely. As he went deeper and deeper, Chen Hao frowned slightly. The feeling of being stared at by countless pairs of eyes appeared in his heart, causing Chen Hao's footsteps to become slower and slower. However, he did not restrain his aura. Suddenly, two blood-red lights pierced through the thick fog and appeared in front of Chen Hao's eyes, just as he had expected. King Kong Demon Ape? When Chen Hao saw the demonic beast that was more than 10 feet tall and resembled a giant, his pupils shrank and flashed with excitement. No wonder, King Kong Demon Ape, a Class 6 demonic beast, liked to live in groups and had a human-like figure. Its body was covered in golden fur, and it had extraordinary strength and astonishing speed. It was the overlord race of Class 6 demonic beasts. The most terrifying thing was that this demonic beast had extremely high intelligence. Usually, there were dozens or even hundreds of them living in groups. Furthermore, they had a King Kong Demon Ape. Under normal circumstances, the King Kong Demon Ape was at least a Class 6 peak demonic beast. Very few could reach Class 7. Taking a deep breath, Chen Hao's figure stood still as his gaze quickly swept the surroundings. Sure enough, numerous scarlet lantern-like eyes silently passed through the thick mist and started to surround him from afar. A demonic ape that was more than 6 feet tall and emitted a terrifying demonic aura appeared in Chen Hao's eyes. It was clearly the king of this group of King Kong demon apes. Silence. Other than the thick and unconcealable demonic aura, there was no other sound. But the more it was like this, the more it showed how terrifyingly intelligent these King Kong demon apes were. What surprised Chen Hao even more was that the King Kong demonic ape king was actually holding a large sword that exuded a sharp aura. Its scarlet eyes flashed with a hint of human greed as it stared at the storage ring on Chen Hao's finger. His stalwart body was as straight as a sword, and there was something between his legs that was no different from a human's. If it wasn't for the golden fur all over his body, he would be no different from a human. It was just that his body was a little too tall. Chen Hao's calmness caused the Vajra Demon Ape King's ugly face to frown. This little human's aura clearly wasn't strong, so how could he be so calm after being surrounded? He didn't even have the intention to run? Could it be that he was not afraid of him at all? Chi! The King Kong Demonic Ape King suddenly opened its mouth, revealing fangs that were obviously sharper than a human's. It let out a sharp cry, and at the same time, the great sword in its hand made a cool attacking posture as if it was issuing an order. "Ci, bang bang bang." In an instant, the 4 Vajra demon apes around Chen Hao bared their sharp fangs at the same time and let out a shrill cry. A terrifying and majestic demonic aura immediately spread out. Pung pung peng, the sound of heavy footsteps could be heard. The hard rocky ground was instantly filled with sand and dust, and 4 huge bodies pounced towards Chen Hao at lightning speed. "Go back!" Chen Hao roared, exploding like a thunder. Without the slightest fear, he violently punched out, and the rolling fusion energy erupted like a mountain or an ocean. Bang 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 bang. The terrifying and oppressive sounds of fists and feet colliding rang out. Chen Hao had shaken the 4 King Kong demonic apes back, but what surprised Chen Hao was that after the 4 King Kong demonic apes rolled on the ground, they didn't stop at all. They screamed and pounced on Chen Hao even more fiercely, as if they wanted to tear him apart. As expected of the King Kong demonic apes, what a strong physical body. In his surprise, Chen Hao became even more excited. With a long roar, the energy around his body surged and circulated. Chen Hao didn't plan to use any weapons at all. He wanted to hone himself and really control the operation of the 5 elements in a real battle, so that he could exert this attribute energy to the extreme. These dozens of King Kong demonic apes with strong physical bodies and astonishing speed were simply the best targets for him to hone himself. Bang bang bang. Chen Hao's fists were heavy, his palms were fluttering, and his legs were like whips. His entire body had become a sharp weapon. At times, it was like rolling waves, one after another, overlapping with another. At times, it was incomparably sharp and piercing through stone. At times, it was heavy and majestic like Mount Tai. At times, it was light and ethereal, changing unpredictably. In a short 2 minutes, the 4 King Kong demonic apes were completely suppressed by Chen Hao and became no threat at all. Chen Hao looked like he was handling a butcher's cleaver with ease. Seeing that the 4 King Kong demonic apes couldn't do anything to Chen Hao, the King Kong demonic ape immediately hissed several times, and in an instant, nearly 10 more powerful King Kong demonic apes joined the battle. Bang bang bang, terrifying explosions constantly sounded. Chen Hao was besieged by the King Kong demonic apes that suddenly increased by 3 times. At first, he felt that he was overwhelmed, because the King Kong demonic apes' attacks weren't scattered, but rather coordinated with each other. Moreover, their speed was astonishing, causing Chen Hao to feel an enormous pressure. But as time passed, Chen Hao's mind became clear, and his entire person, body and mind, was completely immersed in this battle to his heart's content. Yuan energy and mental strength fused together, and the 5 elements derived energy constantly flashed on Chen Hao's body, changing unpredictably. This made Chen Hao braver and braver as he fought. Above the thick fog, a graceful figure flew through the air. Her entire aura seemed to have merged with heaven and earth, and her eyes shone with a fizzing light. A strange, invisible, and untouchable fluctuation, like tentacles, penetrated the thick fog that could restrict a cultivator's senses. Not a single movement within 100 miles could escape her senses. At this moment, her eyes were focused on the thick fog below her, as if she could see through it. With a faint trace of surprise, she murmured, "This Chen Hao's battle talent is actually so strong. Not afraid in the face of danger, calm and collected, and always able to launch the most suitable attack at the most critical moment, turning something rotten into something miraculous. The only flaw is that his realm is too low. However, he's not even 15 years old, and has only started cultivating for 3 years. His comprehension is definitely not bad." This woman was Dongfang Ting. At this moment, Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun, and Dongfang Jian were all within her range of perception. Furthermore, the majority of her attention was focused on Chen Hao. Originally, when she saw Chen Hao being surrounded by the group of King Kong demonic apes, she thought that Chen Hao would run away. However, she did not expect that Chen Hao was not afraid in the slightest. More shockingly, even now, he was not at a disadvantage. This King Kong demonic ape is clearly a level 7 monstrous beast. Although it's a low-level monstrous beast, it still has the strength of an ordinary low-level martial ancestor realm expert. If Chen Hao can defeat it, it's still not enough. At the very least, his cultivation must increase to rank 8 martial emperor in order to defeat those people from the empire's new show hall. Dongfang Ting shook her head and said, Her cultivation far surpassed that of the secular world. In this period of time, she had already scouted the surrounding 1,000 miles. She sensed several super geniuses that were far above Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun, and Dongfang Jian. One of them was clearly a martial ancestor realm expert. According to Dongfang Ting's understanding, he should be the head disciple of the empire's new show hall, Ni Jianpain. He had already entered the depths of the Cloud Mist Mountain range. There were also two extremely powerful auras. They were clearly half a step into the martial ancestor realm. Especially one of them. He could kill monstrous beasts with a single strike. His battle power was extremely frightening. Even if he were to face Ni Jianpain, he would not lose out in the slightest. These two people were naturally Li Yifeng and Yang Fan. In 3 months, they had a very high chance of becoming martial ancestor realm experts. If nothing unexpected happened, these 3 people would occupy 3 spots. Other than these 3 people, Dongfang Ting also discovered several existences that were not inferior to Chen Hao, Dongfang Jian, and Dongfang Jian. Even she could not be certain as to who would win the new talent rankings and obtain the qualifications to participate in the 100 Empire rankings. Dongfang Jian definitely did not have any hope. Although she had also given him a spirit artifact sword, it was clearly much weaker among the many genius disciples. As for Dongfang Jun, although she had given him an even stronger spirit artifact sword, he still did not have much hope. The difference in cultivation and battle power was too great. This time, she could only treat it as tempering. However, there would be no problem the year after next. Dongfang Jun's comprehension was far superior to most geniuses. It would not be strange for him to become a martial ancestor the year after next. It would depend on his cultivation grade. Only Chen Hao, who had comprehended the operation of the 5 elements and possessed a trace of heaven and earth aura, had a glimmer of hope. Most importantly, it would depend on what cultivation level he could reach in these 3 months. The King Kong demonic ape is about to attack. At this moment, Dongfang Ting's eyes flashed. Her body swayed as she approached Chen Hao. She was prepared to attack when Chen Hao was in a life-or-death situation where he could not resist. Good timing. Chen Hao, who was covered in blood, had finally waited for the King Kong demonic ape to attack. At this moment, he had already smashed the heads of several King Kong demonic apes. More than 10 of them had collapsed with serious injuries and were no longer able to fight. The King Kong demonic ape, who was at the martial ancestor realm, could not help but attack. Roar! Dozens of meters away, the King Kong demonic ape let out a furious roar. Compared to its huge body, it swung its sword, which was extremely short and small. Rumble! An intense and terrifying sword radiance slashed toward Chen Hao as fast as lightning with a loud rumble. The hard rock ground between the two of them suddenly split open. Wherever the sword light passed, dust billowed and debris swirled in the air. A gully several feet deep spread towards Chen Hao with the sword light at an astonishing speed. Clang! Feeling that terrifying power, Chen Hao's expression changed slightly. He didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. A resplendent golden light suddenly appeared in Chen Hao's hand. He drew his sword, attacked, all in one breath. Rumble! The golden sword of the 5 elements sword was extremely sharp. The brilliant sword radiance met the King Kong demonic ape's terrifying sword radiance. Chapter 132. When he woke up in the morning, he couldn't wait to open the book. He wanted to see if the extra monthly votes had been taken. However, the moment he saw the page, he felt so depressed that he vomited 3 liters of blood. At that time, there were only 2 monthly votes, but there were 5 evaluation votes. Furthermore, they were the black votes with the lowest score. 9 points directly became 9 points. He looked at the book review. It was a reader who saw that Xiao Jihan died, but the president didn't notice. He thought that the book was stupid and voted for it. It was indescribable how he felt. I only want to say, did you see the end? Did you see the reason why Xiao Jihan was able to successfully blow himself up? Even if my plot was really stupid, was there a need to do that? Writing books was Dark Mountain's hobby and also his job. Was it easy for him to earn a living? Sitting in front of the computer for nearly 16 hours a day without moving, his back aching, and he felt like vomiting every night when he touched the keyboard. Was it easy? Dark Mountain wasn't complaining. No one forced me to work hard. I could also write less or stop. I also wanted to relax. If I had time off, I could accompany my wife and daughter, accompany my parents, and train my body. I didn't want to smoke more than 2 packs of cigarettes a day, sit still, and exhaust my life. But this was my job. It was the source of all my income. If I didn't work hard, what would I eat? What would I drink? What would I use to support my family? Dark Mountain wasn't a teenager in his 20s. He was already over 30 years old and had parents, a wife, and a daughter. As a man, I was the pillar of the family. It was my responsibility to support my family. The more chapters one wrote, the more royalties I could get. So I worked hard. My speed was less than 800 miles per hour, and my daily speed was more than 9,000, almost 10,000. I used my hard work to win the recognition of my readers. I wanted everyone to support the original version, everyone to subscribe, everyone to give me monthly votes, and everyone to like my book, but that was impossible. No one could do it. Every book had its likes and dislikes. I couldn't write a book that would suit everyone's tastes. So, I could only apologize to some readers. Take it as Dark Mountain begging you. I'm just trying to earn a living. If you don't like it, don't read it. Don't spend money to vote for me either. Thank you. I also implore the brothers and sisters of Proud Heaven to support Dark Mountain. If you have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Dark Mountain would continue working hard. Chapter 133. Second update. Thank you for your consolation. Thank you for your monthly votes, comments, recommendations, and subscriptions. Dark Mountain will continue to write the third update. Thank you very much. Bang. The sword lights clashed, shaking the mountains and the earth. One man and one beast, both retreated several feet before they could stabilize themselves. A 10 feet wide and several feet deep chasm had already appeared between the two of them. It was a terrifying chasm that connected the two of them. And the King Kong demonic apes, who were trying to swarm them, were sent flying backwards while vomiting blood. Bang! There was almost no interval between the two explosions, and both Chen Hao and the King Kong demonic ape king exploded at the same time. The figures of man and beast approached each other at lightning speed. Bang! 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 The King Kong demonic ape bared its fangs, its expression ferocious and wild. The sword in its hand swung wildly, as if it had the power to sweep through the world. It swung out without any scruples, and the sword lights, which were condensed with terrifying demonic power, wreaked havoc and dominated the world. Chen Hao, on the other hand, seemed to be in the middle of a storm. He was completely enveloped by the sword lights, but the golden sword in his hand danced and formed a golden light shield. He did not retreat in the slightest, and faced the King Kong demonic ape head-on. In a short moment, one man and one beast were engaged in close combat. The terrifying sword chi wreaked havoc, and the minions who could not dodge in time were directly cut into several pieces. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Chen Hao had never fought to his heart's content. Not only was the King Kong demonic ape's strength terrifying, its speed also shocked Chen Hao. Its huge body, in close combat, was not restricted by Chen Hao's agility at all. This made Chen Hao feel immense pressure, and his blood and qi churned. But the more it was like this, the more Chen Hao's blood boiled, and his fighting spirit surged. Chen Hao had a kind of enlightenment. As long as he could defeat this evil beast, his strength would rise to another level. The figures of one man and one beast, in the midst of the terrifying sword qi, rose and fell one after another. In a short while, the surrounding 100 feet was filled with devastation and ravines. In the sky, even Dongfang Ting, with her outstanding cultivation, held her breath as her cold eyes widened. She could clearly determine that the King Kong demonic ape king had an absolute advantage in terms of strength and speed, but under such enormous pressure, Chen Hao was actually not at a disadvantage at all. Blood was clearly flowing from the corner of his mouth, but each strike was fiercer than the last. His entire body and mind seemed to have completely merged into the battle. He was fearless of death, and the more he fought, the braver he became. 15 minutes. 30 minutes. 3/4 of an hour. 1 hour. The man and the beast fought for an entire hour. Both of their bodies were covered with crisscrossing wounds, and their bodies were bathed in blood. But there was still no clear victor. This monstrous beast's monstrous power is very vigorous, and its physical strength is very long. The aura around its body has already reached the level where all rivers flow into the sea. If this continues, the one who will be defeated will likely be Chen Hao. Dongfang Ting slightly frowned and thought to herself, however, this Chen Hao's battle power is indeed extraordinary. He is clearly only a rank 5 martial emperor, but his control over his origin power has reached the subtle realm, and his power is even more astonishing. This is truly strange. With the tempering of this battle, he should be able to break through to rank 6, right? Dongfang Ting pondered as she sensed Chen Hao's aura. Even she had a strange feeling toward Chen Hao. Especially the might of Chen Hao's origin power, she felt very strange. She had also carefully sensed Chen Hao's origin power. Indeed, it had fused with a trace of the 5 elements' origin power. Other than that, she did not feel anything special about it. However, according to the density of his origin power, it should not possess such enormous might. Yet, Chen Hao's strength just so happened to surpass his cultivation by several levels. However, what shocked Dongfang Ting even more was yet to come. As time passed, Dongfang Ting originally thought that Chen Hao would be the first to lose due to exhaustion. However, she did not expect that Chen Hao would become more and more courageous as the battle went on. Gradually, the King Kong demonic ape king's attacks could no longer injure him. However, Dongfang Ting suddenly realized that the crisscrossing sword wounds on Chen Hao's body had actually begun to decrease. What was going on? Could it be that Chen Hao's physical body had already recovered to such an astonishing degree? Previously, Dongfang Ting did not pay attention to the number of wounds on Chen Hao's body, but now, does he possess the undying bloodline? Dongfang Ting murmured. TSK. The King Kong demonic ape king's body was riddled with wounds and was already showing signs of exhaustion. Its scarlet eyes felt the threat of death under Chen Hao's sword light, which was becoming more and more courageous as it fought, and revealed a trace of fear. Its intelligence was not inferior to that of a human's, so it did not dare to continue fighting. It suddenly let out a sharp cry and issued an order. At the same time, it launched a strong attack, forcing Chen Hao to retreat a few steps, and then turned to flee. And those underlings who had received the order immediately began to charge from 100 feet away. Want to run? Go to hell! Chen Hao shouted loudly. The golden sword in his hand made a loud hum, and an incomparably sharp sword essence soared into the sky. He became one with the sword, and his speed suddenly increased by several times. He flew to the top of the King Kong demonic ape king, and swung his sword in reverse. This sword seemed to tear the void apart. It was like a divine brush and a heavenly general. It was so wonderful that it was like lightning. Under the chilling sword essence, the King Kong demonic ape king's hair stood on end. It cried out in horror and swung its sword to meet the attack, but, boom! With a loud explosion, its protective demonic aura was directly cut open. Accompanied by the muffled sound of flesh being cut, the King Kong demonic ape king's huge head flew off from its body like a rubber ball. Some of the Vajra demon apes that were charging over immediately screamed in horror, and then they abruptly stopped, rolling and crawling in all directions to escape. Chen Hao stood proudly and did not chase after them. After all the demonic beasts had fled without a trace, he let out a long sigh of relief. His mind relaxed, and the feeling of soreness and exhaustion spread all over his body. Chen Hao was startled, and he hurriedly gathered his strength again, not daring to completely relax. The Cloud Mountain range was full of danger and demonic beasts roamed freely. Although Chen Hao knew that the super expert Dongfang Ting might have noticed his situation, Chen Hao did not want to receive any help at this time. Everything depended on himself. Only in this way could he continue to break through his limits. Forcing himself to stay alert, Chen Hao came to the side of the King Kong demonic ape king's corpse, cut off its left hand with a sword, and picked up a bracelet made of 12 storage rings. Then, he picked up the spiritual weapon-grade sword. I don't know how many cultivators this demonic beast has killed. Just one spirit weapon is already worth a lot. These 12 storage rings are obviously of a higher grade than the 3 that I bought. There must be something good in them, right? Chen Hao thought to himself, but at this moment, he was too tired to check. He directly put them into his own storage ring, and then dug out the demonic beast core from the King Kong demonic ape king's body. The strong and terrifying demonic beast aura was hundreds or thousands of times stronger than any demonic beast core Chen Hao had obtained before. Then, Chen Hao also plundered all the dead King Kong demonic apes around him, and then his figure flashed, and he quickly fled into the mountains. Demonic beasts that lived in groups must have caves. Since Chen Hao killed the King Kong demonic ape king, of course, he would take over the nest and cultivate in its cave. For a short period of time, it was the safest place. Moreover, the sky was gradually darkening, and it was time for demonic beasts to roam freely. Chen Hao did not have the strength to continue fighting. Chen Hao only had a perception of about 100 meters, so he could only capture the traces. After more than 10 minutes, he heard the sound of flowing water and came to the side of a small stream that seemed to meander down from the top of the mountain. The stream water was clear, and there were some strange flowers and plants growing on both sides of the stream. There were many traces left by the King Kong demonic apes. Following the stream, when he was about to reach the top of the mountain, the terrain suddenly became much smoother. A small lake with a radius of 10 feet appeared in Chen Hao's eyes. The rocks around the lake were smooth and clean, obviously because the demonic apes often appeared. Beside the lake, there was a huge stone door. The workmanship was rough. This is the cave of the King Kong demonic apes, right? Sure enough, demonic beasts are second only to humans. They more or less have the aura of humans. Chen Hao thought to himself. Even at this moment, he did not dare to be careless. His perception spread out, and he approached the cave entrance step by step. The King Kong demonic ape was dead, so the other King Kong demonic apes naturally did not dare to return to the cave. But there might be a King Kong demonic ape guarding the cave. Rumble. Summoning his essence energy, Chen Hao pushed open the stone door that didn't have any restrictions. What Chen Hao didn't expect was that the moment the stone door was opened, a dazzling and blurry light flashed out. Inside the enormous cave, the walls and ceiling of the cave were actually covered with colorful night crystals, causing the entire cave to be as bright as day, brightly lit. It was deep and serene, and one could not see the end of it. There were traces of artificial excavation, but more of the aura was natural. The main frame was obviously a natural karst cave. What a dense heaven and earth Ling Qi. These demonic beasts really know how to choose a place. Chen Hao sensed the aura in the cave and said. His slightly nervous heart also relaxed. There was no aura of life in the 100-meter radius of the cave. Chen Hao quickened his pace and walked along the main cave. Small caves appeared on both sides, and from the rough stone bed and other things placed inside, it should be the King Kong demonic ape's bedroom. After walking for a few hundred meters, he finally arrived at the deepest part of the cave. The rough stone door sealed the space, making Chen Hao clear that this was the King Kong demonic ape's territory. The moment he pushed open the stone door, even Chen Hao was so shocked that his mouth opened wide. The blurry seven-colored light filled the entire space. The cave had a radius of a few hundred meters, and the ceiling and walls were actually made of colorful natural night crystals. What made Chen Hao even more surprised was that in the center, there was a natural pool that was around 6 meters wide. It was incomparably clear, and the heaven and earth Ling Qi was also several times denser. Heavenly paradise? Chen Hao muttered to himself in shock. That's right. The King Kong demonic ape being able to advance to the 7th level of martial ancestor realm is related to this cave. Fortunately, the King Kong demonic ape only has a lifespan of 100 years. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to kill it. A graceful figure strangely appeared beside Chen Hao. Her gaze was also sizing up this natural cave, and she said indifferently, After she finished speaking, she looked at Chen Hao's slightly surprised and frowning expression. Dong Fangting smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry and cultivate here. Whether or not you can obtain the right to participate in the 100 Empire rankings will depend on what realm you can advance to in 3 months. If there are no accidents, you will face 3 martial ancestor realm experts, as well as several powerful geniuses. With your current strength, you only have a 10% chance. P.S. Brothers and sisters who still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you very much." Chapter 134. Third update. It will soon be a new week. I implore everyone to vote for Dark Mountain with your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Dark Mountain will do its best. Also, thank you to all the friends who voted, tipped, subscribed, and comforted Dark Mountain. Thank you. Please rest assured. Dark Mountain will not affect our outyen because of a single person. I will do my best to write it well and quickly. 10% chance. Chen Hao stared at Dong Fangting. He seemed to be muttering to himself, but also seemed to be questioning her. And this is only based on the genius disciples who entered the Demon Cloud Mountain range this time. Within a circumference of 1,000 miles, there is 1 rank 1 martial ancestor, 2 half-step martial ancestor, several rank 9 martial emperors, 1 rank 7 martial emperor and 1 rank 8 martial emperor. Every single one of them is a challenge to you. Although this small-scale blessed land is nothing much, it is an exceptionally good place to cultivate in the Cloud Mist Mountain range. Well then, I will leave behind a restriction at the entrance of the cave for you to break through on your own. You can cultivate in this pond. This is the foundation of the blessed land. Amen. Thank you, Senior. Chen Hao's eyes immediately became clear. Once again, they shone with a confident and firm radiance as he clasped his fist and spoke in a deep voice. Dong Fangting lightly smiled. In Chen Hao's eyes, Dong Fangting's expression suddenly froze. When the smiling figure slowly faded and disappeared, only then did Chen Hao know that Dong Fangting had already left. Her cultivation is clearly much stronger than Yu's. Has she already surpassed the realm of cultivators? Only at this moment did Chen Hao truly feel how powerful Dong Fangting was. She came without a shadow and left without a trace. Even with Chen Hao's sharp perception, he did not detect her in the slightest. If such a person wanted to kill him, he probably wouldn't even know how he died. Taking a deep breath, Chen Hao took off his blood-stained and tattered clothes. Although his body was covered in bloodstains, there were no more wounds. Chen Hao revealed a confident smile. In Xia Yu's words, he had the undying bloodline. If an ordinary person wanted to kill him, they would have to cut off his head. Otherwise, even if his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were shattered, he would still be able to recover. If it was an expert, it would be a different story if he directly used his energy to erase their life force. Slowly walking to the side of the clear pool, Chen Hao gently raised his palm, and a stream of water sprayed onto his body. The blood stains on his body were quickly washed away, revealing his jade-like skin that was even more delicate than that of ordinary women. His streamlined muscles were filled with power. 3 years. It has been 3 years since I awakened in the Shao clan, and I can finally be considered to have the body of an adult. Chen Hao murmured and slowly floated off the ground. He sat cross-legged in the air and nimbly fell into the clear pool of water. At the same time, 10 8th-grade spirit pills floated into his mouth. The cool pool water was filled with majestic spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The moment Chen Hao sank into it, the spiritual qi immediately began to flow into Chen Hao's body through his pores, who had almost exhausted his energy. The majestic energy contained in the spirit pills also spread out in his dantian. Chen Hao instantly activated the mental cultivation method of the secret to long life and immersed himself in cultivation. Dong Fangting, who was setting up a restriction at the entrance of the cave, suddenly frowned slightly and immediately cut off the connection with the cave. After hurriedly setting up the restriction, she suddenly disappeared into the void. The Jinyuan Kingdom. 2 months after Chen Hao entered the Cloud Mountain Range. At the border of the Demon Cloud Mountain Range, there was a huge and majestic city covering a radius of hundreds of miles. The thick and tall city walls were at least 10 feet high. The city was bustling with people coming and going. No one would have expected that 3 years ago, this place was just a small county. But now, it was not the slightest bit inferior to a provincial city. This was the former Yunzhou County. At the core of this huge city, next to the city lord's mansion, there was a vast and magnificent palace complex. It was even bigger and more imposing than the city lord's mansion. Above the 10-meter-tall gate, there was a huge plaque with 2 large golden words on it. The words were majestic, vast, and contained the aura of a king that could swallow mountains and rivers, Shao Clan. The inscription was written by Zhao Xingyu, the current emperor of the Jinyuan kingdom. Let's go! On the martial arts field in the huge manor, 4 young figures exuding powerful auras stood side by side. The surroundings were full of Shao family disciples, all looking at the 4 of them enviously. The one who spoke was the Shao family patriarch, Shao Ding. Compared to 3 years ago, Shao Ding's aura was obviously many times stronger. Sister Ling, Brother Ji Shan, Brother Ji Fei, Sister Ji Yen, dear best, a cute and beautiful little girl, who was about 10 years old and looked like a fairy, shouted loudly at the 3 of them. On the little girl's smooth and slender neck was a jade pendant that shone with a faint purple light. The jade pendant's carving was very exquisite. If one looked carefully, they would discover that the carving on the jade pendant was a beautiful and cute little girl, exactly the same as the little girl. This little girl was none other than Qin Hao's younger sister, Qin Yan. The current Shao Yan was already 10 years old. This jade pendant was something that Qin Hao asked Yunfian to bring back. At that time, when Yunfian saw Qin Yan, she was extremely shocked. Qin Hao, who had not returned for 3 years, was actually able to carve Qin Yan's current appearance. It was simply inconceivable. When the Shao family saw it, they were also shocked. Only Qin Hao's seemingly ordinary father revealed a gratified smile and drank by himself for several days. In the dead of night, tears would flow from his eyes. At that moment, Shao Yan was nestled beside a charming and gentle woman with a graceful figure. This woman was Xiao Mei. In 3 years, Xiao Mei's appearance had not changed much, but her aura had become a lot stronger. She had broken through to a level that she thought she would never have any hope of reaching in her lifetime, a 9th-grade martial emperor. She had a faint feeling that she would soon reach the martial emperor level. Xiao Mei knew that this was all thanks to Qin Hao. On the other side of Xiao Mei was Qin Nan, Qin Hao's younger brother. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that Qin Yan and Qin Nan actually had the aura of a martial artist. They had passed the Shao family's test before they were 10 years old, and after cultivating for half a year, they had become martial artists. These 2 were monstrous existences. Beside Qin Nan was Buttface, who had an honest look on his face. In 3 years, Buttface's aptitude had not been good. However, the Shao family had taken good care of him. He had also cultivated very hard. At that moment, compared to Shao Jishan and the others, he was still very weak. However, among his peers in the Shao family, he was already a top powerhouse. Next year, there was hope that he would become the object of admiration like Shao Jishan and the others. Don't worry. If I don't work hard and let you 2 surpass me, it would be too embarrassing. Shao Jishan, who had a rough appearance, exuded a fierce aura as he laughed. At that moment, this guy had obviously reached the level of a martial emperor, and he was not a low-level one. Similarly, Shao Jifei, who was beside Shao Jishan, had an aura that was not weak at all. However, the most powerful was Shao Jian, who had a faint melancholy aura. At that moment, Shao Jian had grown into a slender and elegant beauty. The naivety of the past could no longer be felt from her. Anyone who saw her for the first time would feel a faint melancholy. The incident with Shao Jihan had caused her to remain silent for half a year. Later, she had thrown herself into cultivating crazily, and the advantages of the longevity secret had become more and more obvious. Now, she had reached the level of a 9th-grade martial emperor. The one with the weakest aura was a very cute and beautiful girl with bright eyes. This girl was Xiaoling. Her aura could not be said to be the weakest, but it was impossible to sense any fluctuation of origin energy. Just like her grandfather, the Cloud State City's city lord Li Ran. Her intent talent had awakened half a year after Chenhao's departure, and it displayed terrifying potential. Abandon martial arts and follow intent. In a short 2.5 years, she had reached the level of a 6th-grade intent emperor, and her battle strength was not inferior to Xiao Jian's. The 4 of them were going to the Lansong province to participate in the Royal New Show Hall's selections. The Mo clan and Helian clan, who had also received the protection of the royal family, were far inferior to the Xiao clan. The Xiao clan's fortunes seemed to have changed completely because of Chen Hao. Especially the younger generation of disciples, each of them displayed their abilities and improved at lightning speed. 2 months ago, the emperor had suddenly bestowed a plaque and heavily rewarded them. Yunfian had also brought a large number of high-grade pills. The Xiao clan was unparalleled in the entire Zhenyuan kingdom. They were directly behind the major clans in the capital. Everyone knew that all of this was brought about by Chen Hao. Xuanwu Empire's New Show Hall. A streak of light streaked across the sky as fast as lightning, bringing with it a strong stench of blood and an extremely powerful aura. It landed at the entrance of the New Show Hall's testing hall. Li Yifeng. When the old steward in the hall saw the young man rushing over, he immediately revealed a surprised expression and called out, "Not bad, not bad. You've also advanced to the martial ancestor realm." The old man's next sentence caused the proud Li Yifeng's expression to change. Also, Vice Hall Master, could it be that Yang Fan is? He came 3 days ago. Advanced to the martial ancestor realm? Yes, fuck. 50,000 pills. Li Feng cried out miserably. He did not even bother with the level test and immediately turned into a streak of light, disappearing from the testing hall. There were still 10 days and 3 months left. He had a narrow escape from death in the depths of the Cloud Mountain, madly hunting and cultivating, and finally advanced to the martial ancestor realm. He originally thought that he would be able to surpass Yang Fan, but he did not expect that Yang Fan had also advanced to the martial ancestor realm, and 3 days earlier than him. He lost the bet again. 5 days later, 3 figures returned and landed in Deqian Kingdom's courtyard. The king of Deqian Kingdom, the New Show Hall's hall master, and many other experts who had come to watch the competition immediately burst out in cheers. Yi Mingho had used the 9-rank monarch pill and madly trained to successfully break through to rank 9 martial emperor. 3 days before the start of the rookie rankings competition, cheers rang out from the Star Luo Kingdom's side courtyard, mixed with the sound of a cockerel's laughter. On the last day before the start of the competition, in Zhenyuan Kingdom's courtyard, the New Show Hall's hall master Zhao Xingchen, 2 vice hall masters, Huang Qi, Yunfian, and a dignified old man who was emitting a powerful aura was sitting on the main seat. This person was the king of Zhenyuan Kingdom, Zhao Xingyu. He was the elder brother of the New Show Hall's hall master, Zhao Xingchen. Beside Zhao Xingyu sat the master that Qin Hao had only met once, Fang Yuan. Other than these people, there were also several old men with powerful auras. They were the clan masters and elders of Zhenyuan Kingdom's Dongfang family and Baili family. Other than these important people, in the various rooms of the courtyard, there were also some top experts and important people of the kingdom. It's the last day, why aren't they back yet? King Zhao Xingyu frowned and said, Zhao clan master, don't worry. With Xiao Ting here, nothing can happen to the 3 of them. I think they should be back soon. Dongfang family's clan master said proudly. He did not address Zhao Xingyu as king, but as the cultivation world addressed him, Zhao clan master. This was also the rule. They're back. Right at this moment, Fang Yuan's eyes shone. With his strong perception, he immediately caught the fluctuation in the air. P.S. A new week is coming soon. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Thank you. Chapter 135. This is the first update. Are there still monthly votes and recommendation votes? The monthly votes are about to be caught up again, but the gap between us is growing larger and larger. Everyone, please vote for Dark Mountain. In the new week, I also ask my brothers and sisters to vote for me. Thank you. Dark Mountain, continue to write. Several peak characters of the Zhenyuan Kingdom immediately walked out of the discussion hall. 4 figures had already landed in the courtyard. We pay our respects to Taoist Dong Fong Ting. When King Zhao Xingyu and the other peak characters saw the 4 people, they all clasped their fists and bowed to Dong Fong Ting with respectful expressions. Even the Dong Fong family's family head was no exception. Merely, Chen Hao was slightly surprised by the way they addressed him. Dong Fong Ting waved her hand with an indifferent expression. "How's your progress?" Zhao Xingchen asked impatiently. The crowd's gazes were also flickering with light. They were inspecting the auras of Chen Hao and the other 2. "I was fortunate enough to advance to rank 9 Martial Emperor," Dong Fong Jian said with a deep voice. As he spoke, he emitted his own origin energy fluctuations. This caused the crowd, especially those who knew Dong Fong Jian, to feel extremely surprised. Not only were they surprised that Dong Fong Jian had advanced from rank 8 Martial Emperor to rank 9 Martial Emperor in a short 3 months, they were also surprised by Dong Fong Jian's expression and tone. In the past, regardless of who Dong Fong Jian faced, he would always carry a trace of confidence and arrogance from his bones. Yet now, he had a calm expression. It was as if he was unmoved by favor or disgrace. "Not bad," Zhao Xingchen praised. As for a 50-year-old old man from the Dongfang family, he had a complacent and proud expression on his face. With a trace of ridicule, he looked at Dongfang Jun. This old man was Dongfang Jian's father. Evidently, he still did not know that the conflict between Dongfang Jian and Dongfang Jun had already been resolved. Dongfang Jun had even changed his way of addressing him as Brother Cheap. Dongfang Jun saw Dongfang Jian's father's expression and curled his lips. He released his own aura and said, "I have roughly advanced to peak rank 7 Martial Emperor. As for my battle power, it should be about the same as Brother Cheap, Brother Jian?" Dongfang Jian's father was slightly stunned by Dongfang Jun's address. "Chen Hao, what about you?" "I am the same as Dongfang Jian, peak rank 7 Martial Emperor." Chen Hao smiled, then looked at Fong Yuan, who was staring at him with shining eyes, bowing and saying, "Greetings to Master." Fong Yuan, this master with an undeserved reputation, felt a little awkward when Chen Hao called him master. He quickly helped Chen Hao up and said, "No need to be so polite, very good, very good. Master really did not expect you to advance so quickly." The commotion in the courtyard caused all the middle-aged and old men with powerful auras to walk out one after another. Most of their gazes were fixed on Chen Hao. Chen Hao was the only one they didn't recognize. At the same time, Chen Hao's battle prowess was clear from the information they had obtained. They all discussed in low voices. "Junior brother." Yun Fian ignored the presence of many important people. After Zhao Xingchen introduced Zhao Xingyu, Dongfang clan, Bai Li clan and other important people to Chen Hao and walked towards the discussion hall, she quickly walked to Chen Hao's side and affectionately held onto Chen Hao's arm, saying in a low voice, "Senior sister has completed the task you gave me. Your Shao clan is really amazing." Chen Hao was slightly surprised, turning his head to look at Yun Fian. "What's so amazing about it?" "If nothing goes wrong, this year's Royal New Show Hall, Lan Tsang Province will have 4 spots for your Shao clan. Next year, there will still be 4 spots, and after a few more years, there might be even more spots." Cough cough, "Are you serious?" Chen Hao's face shone with excitement and doubt. Although Chen Hao had not returned for 3 years, he could still predict Shao clan's current situation. How could there be 4 spots this year? If there was only 1, he would not be surprised. It must be Shao Jiyan, who has spiritual roots and cultivates the secret to longevity. But where did the other 4 come from? Of course it's true. 2 beautiful little girls, one more powerful than the other. One is called Li Shaoling. When senior sister went, she kept pestering senior sister, asking about your situation. This little girl is amazing. She's only 16 years old, but she's already a 6th stage martial emperor. Her battle prowess is quite strong. The other one is called Shao Jiyan, a 9th stage martial emperor. Other than the 2 of them, there are also Shao Jishan and Shao Jifei, who are both martial emperors. Not bad. I didn't expect Shao Ling heir to have awakened. Jishan and Jifei are also not bad. Chen Hao's face revealed a gratified smile, as if he was imagining Shao Ling heir pestering Yun Fian like a sparrow, asking all sorts of questions. Yunfian pulled Chen Hao to slow down her pace, her charming face shining with a hint of pride. Let me tell you another piece of good news. Your younger brother and sister have both started cultivating. In half a year, they became fourth-stage martial students one after another. In a few years, it's very likely that they'll be as abnormal as you. Really? Chen Hao's eyes widened. Xiao Nan and Xiao Yan aren't even 10 years old. Look at how excited you are, hee. That's right, junior brother, senior sister is very curious. How can the jade pendant you carved be the same as Xiao Yan's? Have you seen Xiao Yan before? My carving skill is to capture the veins and life traces of all things in the world. I'm just a beginner now, so I can't capture it too deeply. Xiao Yan is my sister, so of course I can understand it more deeply. How mysterious! Yunfian said with a little surprise. After a slight pause, she said, "This is all the information about the nameless old man that manager Shu Ya collected for you. A lot of it is just legends, and no one knows whether it's true or not. Alright, let's go in first. If senior sister keeps pulling you, I'm afraid she'll have something to say." The Empire's new show hall has already sent out news. The Five Palace Hall's chief disciple, Ni Jian Pain, has become a rank 2 martial ancestor. The White Tiger Hall's chief disciple, Yang Fan, has become a rank 1 martial ancestor over 10 days ago. The Azure Dragon Hall's chief disciple, Li Yifeng, has also become a martial ancestor. If nothing unexpected happens, these 3 people will become seeded contestants. As for the other 2 seeded contestants, we still don't know who they will be. After Qin Hao and Yunfian sat down, the new show hall's hall master Zhao Xingchen frowned and said, "It's possible that Great Qian Kingdom's Yi Mingho is already a peak rank 9 martial emperor. Originally, when he was only a rank 7 martial emperor, no one was able to force him to reveal his true strength in the qualifiers. He can only be described as unfathomable. The other 3 people who might become seeded contestants are disciples from the other 3 groups. The strongest disciples from the 8-nation qualifiers are all peak rank 9 martial emperors. Furthermore, their battle power is very strong and they easily qualified." After Zhao Xingchen spoke till this point, he looked to Dongfang Ting and said, "Daoist Ting, you should know the battle power of these 3 people the best. There is not much time left. We must immediately go and report the information regarding the competition." After Dongfang Ting frowned slightly, she looked to Qin Hao. However, she still shook her head and said, "As for seeded contestants, we can forget about obtaining them. Among the 3 of them, Chen Hao's battle power is the strongest. He is able to easily take care of low-rank 7 martial ancestor realm monstrous beasts. As for mid-rank 7 martial ancestor realm monstrous beasts, he is also able to kill them. However, if he were to encounter a super genius disciple of the martial ancestor realm, it would be impossible for him to determine his strength before he actually fought against them. Furthermore, he is only a rank 7 martial emperor. It is not enough for him to convince the masses. Although the new talent ranking is also divided into 5 groups, the top 2 from each group will be determined. As long as one's strength is strong, it doesn't matter if one is a seeded contestant or not. As long as one is able to enter the top 10, there is hope." Dongfang Ting spoke with an encouraging tone. In a short 3 months, Chen Hao's performance in the Cloud Mist Mountain range was absolutely astonishing. It was not something that Dongfang Jian and Dongfang Jun could compare with. However, it remained that time was too short. No matter how much of a genius one might be, one still needed time to grow. If Chen Hao was given another year, or even half a year, Dongfang Ting was certain that Chen Hao would be able to enter the top 5 of the new talent ranking and obtain the qualifications to participate in the 100 Empire ranking. However, she was unable to be certain right now. "Very well. Then we can only do this. I hope that our luck is not too bad. I'll go and report to them first. Huangqi, tell them about the process and rules of the new talent ranking competition. Also, tell them about their opponents. After that, go into closed-door training to recuperate and adjust yourself to your best condition." 2 hours later, Qin Hao returned to his room. To Yunfian's astonishment, this time around, Chen Hao actually took the initiative to pull her along. It seemed that he had some questions to ask her. Another 2 hours later, Yunfian was pushed out by Chen Hao in an extremely depressed manner. Burning the bridge after crossing the river, this was simply unambiguous. During the 2 hours, Chen Hao asked about Yunfian's situation in the Shao family, regardless of whether it was big or small. This included the changes in the Shao family, the lineup of the Shao family, the situation of her parents, the current stage of Old Master Shao and Shao Ding, the situation of Shao Mei, Buttface, and the others. Almost everything that Yunfian knew was explained. When there was nothing left to say, Chen Hao used the excuse of starting cultivation to push Yunfian, who wanted to talk about the Chamber of Commerce, out of the room. Phew! Chen Hao's face was brimming with a kind of joy that had never appeared before. He sat down cross-legged and let out a long sigh. In 3 years, the changes in the Shao family, especially 2 months ago, after he had displayed his astonishing talent and combat strength and obtained the qualifications to participate in the new talent ranking, everything that the Jinyuan kingdom had done for the Shao family made him very satisfied. He believed that as long as he continued to strengthen himself, it would not be long before the Shao family became a true top family in the Jinyuan kingdom. It was even possible for the Shao family to join the ranks of the Zhao family, the Dongfang family, and the Bailey family. Right now, the only thing they lacked was a foundation. Soon, after calming down his excited state of mind, Chen Hao recalled the powerful opponents that Huang Qi had analyzed earlier. The top 10 people, the 5 palace chiefs of the new show hall, were naturally no exception. Among them, the 3 martial ancestor realm experts posed the greatest threat to Chen Hao. That was because they would definitely be the 3 seeded contestants. As for the other 2 rank 9 martial emperors, if not for the fact that they were worried about the 32 kingdoms and the various provinces, they would also have the qualifications to become seeded contestants. However, they could not possibly give all 5 seeded contestants to the empire's new show hall. Thus, the other 2 seeded contestants were very likely to be Mingho and several other rank 9 martial emperors who had displayed valiant combat strength. On the surface, there were a total of 12 people who posed the greatest threat to Chen Hao. Among the 12 people, there was also the damned eunuch Yin Fenghan, who had also advanced to rank 9 martial emperor. Buzz. After taking a deep breath, a large sword as cold as the moon appeared before Chen Hao. It was vibrating at a high frequency and emitting buzzing sounds. This large sword was also a spirit artifact. It was obtained from the 12 storage rings of the Diamond Demonic Ape King. The harvest from the 12 storage rings shocked even Chen Hao. There were actually 6 spirit artifact level treasured swords, countless level 5 and level 6 monstrous beast cores, level 8 medicinal pellets, and several sets of secret techniques. It was very clear that the owners of these storage rings were at least the same as Chen Hao and the others. They were disciples who had obtained the qualifications to be on the new talent rankings several years ago. However, they had died in the Cloud Mist Mountain range and did not even have the time to return the secret techniques that they had obtained. P.S. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Many thanks. Chapter 136. Second update. I've forgotten that it's my birthday soon. Thank you all for your red envelopes. Thank you Little Wolf for the 50,000 red flutters. Thank you ******* for the 25 evaluation tickets, as well as the rewards, monthly tickets, urging me to update, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Also, it's my birthday once in a blue moon. Brothers and sisters, can you give me your monthly tickets and recommendation tickets as gifts? Please. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chen Hao's consciousness entered the treasured sword and sensed the runes within it. With a light flick of his wrist, 9 crescent moon-shaped sword rays poured out. Condense! Chen Hao lightly shouted. Under the mental control of the subtle realm, the runes within the treasured sword were immediately activated. The 9 crescent moons miraculously condensed together, forming a full moon. The entire training room was dyed with a layer of cold moonlight. Moonlight sword. Under the moonlight, it has countless transformations. It can be soft or hard and has boundless power. It's very suitable for Xiaowu. I wonder which unlucky bastard left it behind. The runes within the sword are indeed profound. I'll use it to participate in the new talent competition. I'll have avenged that unlucky bastard. I believe that no one would be so thick-skinned as to ask for it back from me. Chen Hao stared at the seemingly real full moon before him. He knew in his heart that as long as he willed it, this gentle and cold moonlight would become the most berserk attack. It was likely that even this training room would not be able to withstand it. With a light smile on his face, the treasured sword let out the sound. Once again, the moonlight and the treasured sword disappeared. As for Chen Hao, he was immersed in a subtle state of meditation. After 3 months of bitter training, only Chen Hao himself knew what level his battle strength had reached. Rank 7 Martial Emperor. Although it seemed that he had only increased by 2 ranks, Chen Hao believed that if he were to encounter the original rank 8 Martial Emperor, Yin Fenghan, again, he would be able to easily kill him without using the mysterious yellow ring. Because Chen Hao did not use the might of fused energy at all in his later training. He only used origin power, pure origin power. The next day, early morning. The sky was clear and there were no clouds for thousands of miles. A fiery red sun slowly rose from the east. The Imperial Palace, which symbolized the highest power and authority of the Xuanwu Empire, emitted thousands of rays of light under the sun. A mysterious and dense aura enveloped the palace. The majestic and melodious sound of the bell came from the depths of the palace. The magnificent gate of the Imperial Palace, which was 30 meters tall and 30 meters wide, slowly opened under the push of 2 rows of mighty guards. The numerous big shots who had been waiting outside for a long time all showed traces of nervousness on their faces. They didn't scramble to be the first to enter the Imperial Palace. Instead, they followed the order and entered the Imperial Palace. The rookie ranking competition would be held at the highest level of the Empire's Imperial Palace. Facing one powerful aura after another, Chen Hao's expression was extremely calm on the surface. Only his eyes occasionally flashed with a bright light, allowing others to understand that this extraordinarily handsome youth's mood was also surging. He had strong expectations for the upcoming clash between geniuses. From the discussions of the crowd, Chen Hao could occasionally hear his name being mentioned. Furthermore, he could feel waves of probing energy fluctuations. Evidently, in the rookie competition's preliminaries, he, who had fought against Yin Fenghan with the cultivation of a rank 5 Martial Emperor and alarmed the number 1 expert Mu Qing to appear, was one of the most eye-catching existences among the many genius disciples. Little brother Chen Hao, do your best. When Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun and Dongfang Jian followed Zhao Xingyu and the others into the Imperial Palace's gate, close to 100 old men stood on both sides to welcome them. One of the old men took the initiative to greet Chen Hao with a smile when he passed by him. "Thank you, Senior Mu," Chen Hao said with a light smile. At the same time, he clasped his fist and greeted the other old men who nodded and smiled at him. These old men were none other than the old men who had asked Chen Hao to carve. The people who came to welcome them were obviously all big shots of the Empire. Contrary to Chen Hao's expectations, the spectator stands in the martial practice field were not large. There were only 3 viewing stands. On the other side, there was a high and mighty platform. The 3 viewing stands could only hold about 10,000 people. However, it was luxurious and grand. In front of the seats, there were long tables that ran through the entire row. At the very front were the contestants from the various kingdoms and provinces. In the middle was the stage. The stage was different from ordinary stages. Instead, it was circular and had a diameter of 3,000 feet. What surprised Chen Hao was that with a cursory glance, he was able to tell that the stage was a special kind of stage. The material was actually suffused with a metallic luster. The surface of the stage was also covered with golden runes. This is the highest standard arena in the Empire. There are restrictions condensed by super experts. When you start the competition, the restrictions will be activated, causing the entire arena to be shrouded in a layer of enchantment. The space restrictions inside will also cause the arena to become thousands of feet wide and hundreds of feet tall. Unless it is a battle between martial saints, the stage will not be damaged in the slightest. At the same time, The scene of your battle will be magnified several times by the spirit formation, allowing the audience to see it clearly. Huang Qi slowly explained after seeing the shocked expressions of Chen Hao and the others. In less than a quarter of an hour, with the influx of people, the entire stage of the martial arts practice field was filled. Among them, there were thousands of young men and women dressed in the same uniform. They sat in the last few rows of the stage. These disciples were from the empire's new show hall. The others were like the experts brought by Zhao Xingyu. They were the top figures of the various kingdoms. When everyone had just arrived, dozens of majestic and terrifying auras suddenly came from the entrance of the martial arts practice field. Dong Fangting and Mu Qing were among them. However, with Dong Fangting's status and cultivation, she was only at the edge. There were also a few young experts with powerful auras. Each of them had a condescending and arrogant expression on their faces. Their expressions and auras made even the middle-aged emperor of the Xuanwu Empire who was walking in the middle appear clumsy. It was obvious that these people were from another level. However, they were in a different camp from Dong Fangting. The noisy crowd instantly quietened down. Their gazes were filled with reverence as they stared at the dozens of figures that slowly floated into the air towards the rostrum. In particular, those handsome young men and beautiful women who were about to participate in the competition, as well as the disciples of the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, were excited. These people were their targets. After the main figures were seated, the first expert of the Xuanwu Empire, the Imperial Guardian, and the Hall Master of the Empire's new show hall, Mu Qing, walked to the front of the rostrum with a solemn expression. After sweeping his gaze across the martial arts practice field, he slowly said, "In this rookie ranking competition, according to the usual practice, our Xuanwu Empire has invited true geniuses from our empire. Each of them stood out from the rookie ranking competition and stepped into the 100 Empire ranking competition. They displayed their amazing talents and became the favored children of the 100 Empire ranking competition selected by the super sections. This is the pride of our Xuanwu Empire. It is also the foundation of our Xuanwu Empire's everlasting prosperity. Now, please allow me to introduce the pride of our Xuanwu Empire to you. The first is Xian Xian, who walked out of the Empire's new show hall 18 years ago, Taoist Xian. She is currently an inner disciple of the 6th grade sect, the Imperial Sword faction. In a few years, she will be promoted to a core disciple." Voila! Following Mu Qing's words, a young and beautiful woman with an extraordinary temperament, who was sitting close to the emperor of the empire, stood up and cupped her fists towards the martial arts practice field. Her expression was indifferent and aloof. It was as though in her eyes, everyone present was like an ant. No one could enter her eyes. But the more she was like this, the more everyone felt that she was lofty. The martial arts practice field erupted into an uproar and crazy cheers. Especially the disciples of the Empire's new show hall, they were extraordinarily excited. Xian Xian was a mythical existence in their new show hall. A core disciple of the Imperial Sword faction? That's really powerful. Huang Qi muttered. After he finished speaking, he looked towards Chen Hao and the other two and said, "It's time for you to know about the existence of another level. The disciples on the rostrum are the same as Taoist Dong Fangting. They all come from another level, an existence that surpasses the empire. In the entire boundless continent, there are tens of thousands of sections. Just like our kingdoms and empires, there are also different levels. They are divided into 9 ranks. Rank 1 is the lowest and rank 9 is the highest. A 6th grade sect is already a rather powerful existence. For this Xian Xian to be able to become an inner disciple of the 6th grade sect, the Imperial Sword faction, and have the hope of being promoted to a core disciple, she is already a genius among geniuses. Even more powerful than my aunt." Dong Fangjian asked in surprise. "There's always someone better than you. When you can advance to that level, your horizons will naturally widen. The path of cultivation is endless." Chen Hao, on the other hand, was extremely calm, because he had already learned about the existence of a higher level from Xia Yuyu. Whether Huang Qi knew or not, he wasn't sure. However, charging out of the rookie ranking, advancing to the 100 Empire ranking, and stepping into a sect that surpassed the empire was not his end. Taking a deep breath, Chen Hao's eyes shone with a sharp glint. It seemed like a simple introduction, but it contained a subtle contrast of power. Among the 33 super-existences, 10 of them came from the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall. The lowest sect was a 4th-grade sect. As for the other 23, including Dongfang Ting, they were all 3rd grade, 2nd grade, and even 1st grade sections. Dongfang Ting belonged to the 3rd grade sect, Zhaixing sect, and was the only one in the Jinyuan kingdom. The Great Qian kingdom had 2, the Star Luo kingdom had 2, and most of the other kingdoms had 1, while some kingdoms had none. For this year's rookie ranking competition, they will form the members of the arbitration group. The Emperor of the Xuanwu Empire will be the head of the arbitration group, and I will be the deputy head. You may begin. After Mu Qing finished speaking, she looked at the old man who had been waiting at the edge of the arena. The old man respectfully cupped his fists and bowed. His figure flashed, and he arrived at the edge of the arena near the spectator stands. He said in a low voice, "There are a total of 133 disciples who have qualified for this year's rookie ranking competition. 13 of them have entered the Cloud Mountain range to train and have yet to return. The remaining 120 are exactly the same. I'm sure all of you are clear about the rules of the competition, so I won't repeat them here. The 5 seeded contestants have been determined through the arbitration group and the preliminaries of the rookie ranking competition. The first is the Empire's new show hall's chief disciple, Ni Jianpain, a 2nd grade martial ancestor. The second is the Azure Dragon Hall's chief disciple, Li Feng, a 1st grade martial ancestor. The third is the White Tiger Hall's chief disciple, Yang Fan, a 1st grade martial ancestor. Second update. Dark Mountain will continue writing the 3rd update. Please support me with your monthly votes. Thank you. Chapter 137. 3rd update. Are there any more monthly votes? It's about to reach the climax. Wushan doesn't dare to guarantee anything, but I will strive for the 4th update tomorrow. If you have the monthly votes, please provoke Wushan. Let Wushan be a man for once. Walla, Ni Jianpain, Yang Fan, Li Feng. The area where the disciples of the Empire's new Excellence Hall were located immediately erupted with cheers. Ni Jianpain and Yang Fan's names had only appeared for an instant before they were completely overshadowed by Li Yifeng's name. Especially some of the female disciples, they were screaming and shouting almost crazily. It couldn't be helped. Although Ni Jianpain and Yang Fan possessed astonishing strength, when compared to the handsome and extremely popular Li Yifeng, their popularity in the Empire New Show Hall was greatly inferior. Especially among the female disciples, Li Yifeng was the Prince Charming in the hearts of many female disciples. The old man frowned slightly. His sharp gaze immediately swept toward the region where the disciples of the Empire New Show Hall were. His powerful oppressive might immediately caused the crowd to quieten down. Only then did he continue. 4th, Great Qian Kingdom's Yi Mingho, rank 9 martial emperor. Although they knew it was not good to interrupt, the region of the Great Qian Kingdom that was right next to the Jinyuan Kingdom still burst into a short burst of cheers. Yi Mingho, who was sitting right in front, only a few meters away from Chen Hao and the others, had an arrogant expression on his face. He stood up and clasped his fist toward the grand character of the Great Qian Kingdom. Then, he looked at Chen Hao with a provocative and ruthless gaze. Unfortunately, Chen Hao's expression did not change in the slightest. He simply did not look at him. What's there to be proud of? It's merely a seeded contestant. This idiot really thinks he's in the top 5. Dongfang Jun cursed. He had an even more arrogant and domineering expression as he looked at Yi Mingho with disdain. 5th, Great Victory Kingdom's Tantai Lian, rank 9 in 10th Emperor. The old man announced the name of the final seeded contestant. Hearing that name, Chen Hao's gaze couldn't help but look toward the region that burst into cheers. It wasn't because that person was a woman. Instead, it was because Tantai Lian was one of the experts that posed the greatest threat to Chen Hao. Rank 9 in 10th Emperor. Even if it was an ordinary rank 9 in 10th Emperor, their battle prowess would still be extremely frightening. Moreover, the other party was only a 19-year-old super genius. As expected of a beauty, and Helen cough cough. Dongfang Jun's eyes immediately lit up as he spoke. He originally wanted to say that she was similar to Heli and Woozy, but he didn't continue speaking halfway. She was indeed a beauty. The identity of intent made Tantai Lien look fragile. In the pink dress, just like her name, she was like a lotus flower that grew out of the mud without being stained. Her skin was whiter than snow, and her features were picturesque. No one would be able to associate such a delicate girl with an expert. However, his threat to Chen Hao was ranked 4th by Huangqi. He was second only to the 3 martial grandmasters and had even surpassed Yi Mingho. The 5 seeded contestants will be divided into groups 1 to 5 according to the order just now. Other participating disciples, please step onto the stage and draw lots. At this moment, the old man announced loudly. At the same time, a referee appeared in the middle of the arena with a huge black lottery box. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, figures soared into the air and flew onto the arena. Their expressions were solemn and there was a slight trace of nervousness. Line up and follow the order. If you draw well, bring your lot to the referee's seat to register the 5 groups. The old man reminded. No way. I'm in the first group. Fuck, group 2, phew. Luckily, group 4. After the disciples who drew lots, some were depressed and some rejoiced. Obviously, no one would have thought that the first 3 groups would have 3 martial grandmasters. Moreover, they were the strongest disciples of the Empire's new show hall. Who would be willing to meet them? From the words of many disciples, it could be seen that everyone had thought of groups 4 and 5, especially group 5. That was a beauty, a rank 9 intent emperor. Although she was also very strong, it was worth it to be able to exchange blows with such a beauty. Moreover, more importantly, Tantai Xian, this beauty, had a good reputation. In the 8-nation preliminaries, she didn't kill anyone, nor did she heavily injure anyone. She won by lightly injuring her opponent or her opponent admitted defeat. Wah! Group 5, Chen Hao, Brother Cheap, I'm in the 5th group. Ah! Dongfang Jun, who was the first to draw lots, immediately shouted excitedly after seeing the group and number in his hand. Group 4. Dongfang Jian then drew his lot and said. As he spoke, he also walked towards the registration of Group 4. Chen Hao's expression was calm as he casually drew his lot. However, after taking a look, he was slightly stunned. Although he didn't care, wasn't his luck too good? It can't be. When Dongfang Jun and Dongfang Jian saw Chen Hao walking towards Group 1 with his lot, they both felt sorry for Chen Hao. Chen Hao was the strongest out of the 3 and had the most hope. If he was in Group 4 or 5, even if Chen Hao was against Yi Mingho and the beauty, he would have a 30% chance of winning. However, against a rank 2 martial ancestor in Group 1, he simply had no chance of winning. In other words, the first in Group 1 would definitely be Ni Giant Pain. Chen Hao could only fight for 2nd place. This was equivalent to losing half of his chance. The competition has officially begun. Group 1, Empire's new show halls Ni Giant Pain and Formless Kingdoms Li Guahao, please enter the stage. The referee's vigorous voice resounded through the entire martial practice grounds. I admit defeat. The disciple called Li Guahao was unexpectedly straightforward. He didn't even enter the stage and spoke loudly. The referee directly announced Ni Giant Pain's victory and invited Group 2's number 1 Yang Fan and number 2 to enter the stage. Number 2 was a rank 9 martial emperor from a province. Although he knew his chances of winning were not high, he still bravely entered the stage. According to his understanding, Yang Fan was originally ranked last among the disciples of the 5 great palaces. Because he was the first to become a martial ancestor, he obtained the qualifications to be a seeded participant. Yang Fan's ordinary appearance and ordinary aura caused him to not feel any fear. However, when he saw Yang Fan enter the stage while holding a sword with one hand, a trace of pity flashed through the eyes of the handsome and imposing Li Yifeng. In the entire Empire's new show hall, although Yang Fan was the head disciple of the White Tiger Hall and had displayed valiant strength, He had never used his sword. The only person who truly understood Yang Fan was Li Yifeng. Li Yifeng knew very well that this rank 9 martial emperor would not be able to see the sun tomorrow. The reason was very simple. The group stage and the top 10 ranking were both round-robin matches. The 2 people with the highest points in each group would advance to the top 10. As for the top 10, the top 5 people with the highest points would obtain the qualifications to participate in the 100 Empire ranking. Killing a person meant that only you could obtain that person's points. Compared to the 8 nations' new talent competition, it was even more cruel. And now, Yang Fan had entered the stage while holding a sword. What did this mean? He was going to unsheath his sword. Unsheath his sword must be dyed with blood. Well, senior brother Yang Fan is holding a sword. I've never seen him use a sword before. Senior brother Yang Fan has always been low-key. Even the head disciples of the 5 great palaces have never used a sword. I'm afraid that he's really serious this time around. It's very strange. Isn't senior brother Yang Fan proficient in fists and legs? His sword is clearly not a spirit artifact. Otherwise, how could he enter the stage with it? Who knows? Senior brother Yang Fan definitely has a spirit artifact. He is a disciple of the Empire's top family, the Yang family. Although he is not a direct descendant, the Yang family values him greatly. How could he not have a spirit artifact? Chen Hao's sharp hearing picked up the discussions of the disciples in the Empire's new show hall. His eyes were shining as he looked at the ordinary youth who had smiled at him before. From the depths of his heart, he felt that this ordinary youth was definitely not as simple as he appeared to be. There must be a demon behind this abnormality. If he was really that ordinary, how could he become a seeded contestant? Boom. When the 2 of them stepped onto the stage, the edges of the stage started to shine with resplendent rays of light. In an instant, a transparent energy barrier appeared around the entire stage. This caused Chen Hao and the other disciples who had never seen the world to open their eyes wide. Yang Fan and that youth were actually magnified by several times in an instant and appeared clearly before their eyes. Match begin. Bang, bang. Following the order from the referee, that rank 9 martial emperor youth suddenly stomped his feet and his body started to move with lightning speed. The protective energy around his body was also raised to the pinnacle. Facing Yang Fan, who was a martial ancestor realm cultivator, this youth was clearly planning to use a guerrilla tactic. He was planning to launch a fatal attack at an appropriate time. Only by doing so would he have a chance to win. On the other hand, the expressionless Yang Fan slowly narrowed his eyes. The treasured sword that he held in his hand trembled slightly. Then, like a breeze, his body disappeared from the crowd's eyes. Clang. The sound of a treasured sword being unsheathed was heard. In an instant, a chilly radiance blossomed. It was like a resplendent firework. This caused Chen Hao's eyes to suddenly shrink. Slightly shocked, he said, "Amazing!" At the same time, the indifferent expressions of the peak experts on the viewing platform also changed slightly. Pooh! A muffled sound was heard at practically the same time. Other than the peak experts on the viewing platform, the martial ancestor realm experts below the viewing platform, and Chen Hao, who possessed abnormal talent, no one else was able to clearly see Yang Fan's movements of unsheathing, swinging his sword and sheathing his sword. All they saw was Yang Fan returning to his original position. As for that rank 9 martial emperor, he also stopped running. Disbelief and fear filled his eyes. After being motionless for half a second, a stream of blood spurted out from his throat with a poo sound. A single slash to the throat. The entire martial practice ground was filled with sounds of people sucking in cold air. Yang Fan's expression did not change in the slightest. It was as if what had happened earlier was completely unrelated to him. An ordinary figure, an ordinary face, an ordinary aura. However, at this moment, in the eyes of the crowd, Yang Fan had become incomparably frightening. This was especially true for some of the genius disciples who had drawn Yang Fan's group and wanted to defeat him. At this moment, they immediately suppressed those thoughts. A rank 9 martial emperor was unable to even withstand a single attack from Yang Fan. What sort of battle power was this? Fuck! Is it true that only being more handsome than him is a merit? Li Feng cursed gloomily in a low voice. He was extremely jealous of Yang Fan, this tough god who had pretended to be a grandmaster. At the same time, he was also faintly afraid. Originally, he had thought that he would at least have a 40% chance of winning against Yang Fan. However, it would appear that even 30% was a problem. Number 1, Yang Fan wins. 3 points. The spirit formation dispersed. With a calm expression, Yang Fan returned to Li Yifeng's side. What are you looking at? No matter how much you look, I'm still more handsome than you, fuck. Isn't it only a single move? I only used half a move to end the match. Li Yifeng said gloomily. As he spoke, he had already stood up. As the number 1 in Group 3, it was time for him to enter the stage. P.S. Third update, requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Please vote for Wushan. Tomorrow we will strive for a breakthrough. Thank you. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian.com to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 138. This is the first update. Today, I'm going all out. Brothers and sisters, please cast your monthly votes for Dark Mountain. The pursuers are ferocious. Please everyone. Li Yifeng. The handsome Li Yifeng, who wore a white gown and had long hair fluttering in the wind, caused an uproar in the entire martial practice ground the moment he appeared. As he was fighting in his home ground before the countless admirers of the Empire's new show hall, especially the female disciples, he displayed a craziness that shocked Chen Hao and the others. Half a move. Now that you've encountered a woman, I shall see how you're going to win with half a move. When Yang Fan saw a rank 8 martial emperor girl step onto the stage, the corners of his mouth rose into a smile as he thought to himself. Sure enough, it was as Yang Fan had said. Li Yifeng, who did not pay much attention to the contestants, simply did not expect that the number 2, who clearly had a very masculine name, was actually a petite, delicate, and pretty young girl. This caused Li Yifeng to immediately frown. Fuck, I've already boasted. Half a move, what am I going to do now? Li Yifeng's greatest weakness was that he had never killed women, especially beautiful women. Furthermore, in the Empire's new show hall, he was known to be a good man. In any competition, as long as he encountered a female disciple, as long as the female disciple's appearance was passable, he would patiently instruct them. Not only would he allow them to display their full strength, he would even instruct them in battle with a face full of smiles. Through this sort of method, he had captured the hearts of countless female disciples. Little sister, you're only a rank 8 martial emperor. Can you admit defeat? Li Yifeng looked to the young girl with a pained expression and spoke with a stern voice. I know that I'm no match for you. However, I also know that you've never used violence against a girl. I'm very happy to be able to fight against you. My name is Du Yanan. My younger cousin is a disciple of your new show hall. The young girl looked to Li Yifeng with sparkling eyes. Without the slightest bit of nervousness, she spoke with a stern voice. Motherfucker. This is the new talent ranking competition. Is she still in heat? Li Yifeng felt even more pained. Little sister Yanan, I've only used half a move and you've already admitted defeat. How about I ask you out another day? Today, I'm going to start a massacre. I've made a bet. The pained Li Yifeng said in a very gentle and tempting manner. Really? The girl blushed. I've never lied to girls, especially such a beautiful and cute girl like you. That's great. Hit me then. The young girl's face immediately turned red as she puffed out her plump chest. Li Yifeng almost went crazy. Shouldn't acting be more realistic? Li Yifeng hurriedly said again, if you attack me with all your strength and I only use half a move, you might be slightly injured. Just admit defeat. I understand. Therefore, when everyone did not understand why the two of them were staring at each other without moving, as if they were talking through sound transmission, the young girl activated her body-protecting aura with a boom sound. Her figure flashed, and she shot out 2 palms as fast as lightning. The majestic Yuan power condensed into 2 huge palms, whistling towards Li Yifeng. His strength was indeed formidable. Li Feng lightly smiled. He took a step forward and waved his palms to meet the incoming palms. However, he only managed to send out half of his palms when the girl shouted, "I admit defeat." Li Feng retrieved his palms with lightning speed. However, the vigorous yuan power that he had already sent out rumbled and spread out, directly sending the girl flying. Like a kite with its string cut, she flew several tens of meters before she managed to stabilize herself. There was a trace of blood at the corner of the girl's mouth. However, her expression and appearance did not show the slightest bit of pain from defeat or injury. Instead, her little face was glowing with a trace of redness. Bitch. He must have used words to confuse this love-struck girl. Seeing this scene, Yang Fan cursed in his heart. However, the half of Li Feng's attack still caused him to praise him in his heart. Purely in terms of yuan power, Li Feng was not at all inferior to him. In the fourth group, the number 1 contestant, Yi Mingho, also displayed astonishing battle power. In a short 2 minutes, he defeated his rank 9 martial emperor opponent. Unfortunately, he was unable to kill his rank 9 martial emperor opponent. In the fifth group, the number 1 beauty, Tan Tai Lien, surpassed everyone's expectations. At the instant the match began, her condensed, boundless and frightening spirit power condensed into incomparably sharp and formless sword rays. She directly dismembered her rank 8 martial emperor opponent and killed him on the spot. Compared to Yang Fan, the contrast between the bloody scene and the calm expression on his face was even more shocking. This caused Dongfang Jun, who was in the fifth group, to be stupefied and terrified. Killing a person and defeating a person were two completely different concepts. If one killed their opponent, no one would be able to obtain their opponent's 3 points. If one was defeated, others would be able to obtain their opponent's 3 points as long as they defeated their opponent. Using their points, one would become a cold-blooded and cruel fuse. Fortunately, after the 5 seeded contestants, it was very difficult for a situation where one was able to kill their opponent to appear. After all, none of the people that were able to enter the new talent competition were weak. Furthermore, the disparity in their battle power would not be too great. When one was certain that there was no hope for victory, it was still possible for one to admit defeat. Soon, the number 7 contestants of the 5th group, Dongfang Jun, and the number 8 contestant, Dongfang Jun, appeared at the same time. His opponent was a rank 8 martial emperor. Dongfang Jun was not afraid in the slightest. Right after the referee's words left his mouth, he arrogantly leaped onto the stage with a cold expression. Dongfang Jun, who was wearing the golden silkworm treasured cloak, had a powerful spirit artifact, and possessed powerful battle power, easily defeated his opponent and obtained 3 points. This caused the entire region of the Jinyuan kingdom to burst into cheers. What are you being complacent for? To encounter me, if you have the guts, then don't admit defeat. At the moment when Dongfang Jun returned to his seat with a complacent expression, Yin Fenghan, who was sitting several meters to his left, revealed a disdainful expression on his face. With his rooster-like voice, he spoke provocatively. Damned eunuch, you're in the 5th group? Very well, rest assured I, Dongfang Jun, am a man. A damned eunuch like you, who is neither male nor female, is not qualified to make me admit defeat, ha! I'll be waiting. To Dongfang Jun's surprise, the damned eunuch did not get angry. Instead, he looked at Dongfang Jun with disdain. After he finished speaking, he turned his head around. The battles were still in full swing. After over 10 battles in a row, the number 15 of the 4th group, Dongfang Jian, stepped onto the stage again. His opponent was also a rank 9 martial emperor. Furthermore, he possessed a powerful spirit artifact. Dongfang Jian retreated with light injuries. He was defeated. 5th group's number 21, Fan Rui from the Fluttering Rain Kingdom, and number 22, Chen Hao from the Jinyuan Kingdom, please step onto the stage. It was finally time for Chen Hao to step onto the stage. Chen Hao, kill as many as you can. By keeping them alive, you are giving your opponent a chance. You have a very high chance. Huang Qi said with a deep voice. As of now, only the number 23 and 24 from the 1st group had yet to step onto the stage. The number of people who possessed the strength to compete with Chen Hao could be determined. Excluding Ni Giant Pain from the first place in the group, Chen Hao still had a very high chance of obtaining the second place in the group. The prerequisite was that Chen Hao was ruthless enough. Chen Hao lightly nodded his head. Then, his body shifted and he flew onto the stage. Fan Rui, peak rank 8 Martial Emperor. He defeated a seeded contestant and advanced to the rookie list. He possesses a spirit artifact. Fan Rui's information flashed through Chen Hao's mind. He coldly looked at the youth with a serious expression and landed 100 feet away from him. Fan Rui also knew about Chen Hao's information. He only had a 20% chance of winning this battle. However, as he was already over 20 years old, this was his final chance. Even if he was unable to enter the top 10, he must still fight with all his strength and obtain a decent ranking, even if it meant death. The reason for that was because this would be the most glorious moment of his life. How many moves do you think he will use to end the battle? After Chen Hao stepped onto the stage, the lazy young fan's eyes immediately shone. He sat up straight and patted Li Yifeng, who was beside him. 3 moves. Li Yifeng narrowed his eyes and said, "How many do you think he will use?" 1 move and his opponent will die. 1 move and his opponent will die? Young fan, you think too highly of this boy, no? While his battle power is very strong, don't forget that he is only a rank 7 Martial Emperor right now. Young fan smiled lightly. He did not explain. Instead, he said, "Bet? Sure, let's bet. However, I'll bet 2 moves and his opponent will die." Li Feng said shamelessly. "You don't even have confidence. You've already lost." Young fan smiled lightly. His eyes were shining as he looked to the stage. However, soon after, Yang Fan started to frown. Li Feng started to laugh complacently. The reason for that was because the battle had already begun. Yet, Chen Hao did not reveal his absolute power. He was actually holding a shiny silver sword. He did not use his ultimate flying blade skill, nor did he use his valiant ring spiritual treasure to fight against his opponent. In an instant, 3 moves had passed. It was not only Yang Fan who was frowning. Dongfang Ting, Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi, Zhao Xingchen and the others were also frowning. According to Dongfang Ting's estimations, this opponent should not be able to withstand a single blow from Chen Hao. In the entire group, other than the rank 2 martial ancestor Realm Ni Giant Pain, there were only 3 people who could pose a threat to Chen Hao. He had a very high chance of obtaining second place in the group. Yet now, how could his battle power be so weak? Especially in terms of origin energy, it actually did not increase much compared to when he was a rank 5 martial emperor. He was completely suppressed by his opponent's frightening origin energy. Fuck, what is Chen Hao doing? Didn't Ant say that his battle power was very strong? How come his absolute power did not increase much even after increasing by 2 levels? Dongfang Jun opened his eyes wide in confusion. Seeing you in person is not as good as hearing about you. Fortunately, I did not admit defeat. Prepare to die. 1 sword devastation. 5 minutes. For an entire 5 minutes, even though Chen Hao fought steadily and surely, a trace of blood actually flowed out from the corner of his mouth before his opponent's absolute power. This caused Fan Rui to become braver and more confident. After he forced Chen Hao back several meters with a single sword strike, he no longer had any misgivings and started to laugh loudly. As he spoke, he pushed his power to the limit. With a flick of his wrist, a bright and frightening sword ray shot toward Chen Hao. However, right at this moment, cries of alarm burst forth from the crowd. Pooh! When Fan Rui gathered all the energy in his body into his attack and unleashed his most powerful attack, a throwing knife noiselessly pierced into his neck from behind. Fan Rui did not even bother to protect his body. Rumble! As for Chen Hao, his wrist shook violently. He swung his sword repeatedly and retreated explosively to block Fan Rui's frightening attack. Only when he reached the edge of the stage did he stabilize himself. Then he vomited a mouthful of blood. His opponent died and Chen Hao was injured. How could he be so weak? So weak that he had to use a sneak attack to barely obtain victory? Dongfang Ting was confused. Dongfang Jian, Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi, Zhao Xingchen and the others who were familiar with the astonishing increase in battle power in the past 3 months were also confused, requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. The first update has arrived. Today, Wushan will fight to the death for the 4th update. Please give Wushan some encouragement. Thank you. Chapter 139. Second update. I woke up at 5 a.m. last night. 12,000 at 4 p.m. I will definitely finish before 12 p.m. Wushan is fighting hard. Brothers and sisters, monthly votes. Only a pitiful 6 today. Please, everyone. Dongfang Ting and the others obviously did not think that Chen Hao only had this much battle power. They just did not understand why Chen Hao did not hesitate to get injured and hide his strength. Similarly, Yang Fan, who always trusted his intuition, also did not understand why Chen Hao, who gave him a sense of danger, would do this. What kind of bullshit genius is this? He increased by 2 ranks but his battle power did not improve. I think he is more like a piece of trash. Yi Mingho said disdainfully when Chen Hao returned to his seat with blood at the corner of his mouth. There are many people like this who are amazing at the beginning but become mediocre later on. Crown Prince, to think that we thought of him as one of our strongest competitors. We were blind. While Yi Mingho and the others were discussing, eunuch Yin Fenghan and the others were also full of disdain and ridicule after seeing Chen Hao's performance. In the entire training ground, many people from other kingdoms and provinces who thought of Chen Hao as one of their strongest competitors were secretly happy. Especially the experts in Chen Hao's group, they all let out a big sigh of relief. Chen Hao's expression was serious. He sat down with a cold face, as if he was dissatisfied with the crowd's discussion. He fiercely wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He did not even pay attention to the questioning gazes of Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi and the others. He directly closed his eyes and began to heal. This made Huang Qi and the others worried. Could it be that Chen Hao's body really had a problem? The battle was still in full swing. After the first round, it was time for number 1 to fight number 3, number 2 to fight number 4. Those who died in battle would be given a break. Since everyone had to fight against all the opponents in their group, it was easy to arrange. Round after round, the strongest contestants in each group gradually emerged from the water, displaying astonishing battle prowess. In the 3 rounds, Chen Hao did not meet any strong opponents. They were all at the same level as his first opponent. However, Chen Hao was always able to rely on his sneak attack, throwing knives to win and kill his opponents. This made everyone feel a trace of fear towards Chen Hao's luck and his strange throwing knives. They were not afraid of Chen Hao's strength, but Chen Hao's luck. His points temporarily rose to first place in the group and tied with the other 2 strong contestants. Enai Jianpain, the second-rank martial great grandmaster. The reason was simple. Enai Jianpain had encountered a dead account in the 3rd round, which was equivalent to a truce. Until now, he had not even had a chance to make a move because he had admitted defeat in the first 2 and 4th rounds. He did not even move, did not fight. Similarly, Yang Fan and Li Feng didn't have the chance to attack again. Their opponents had directly admitted defeat. With such an absolute difference in strength, no one was willing to waste their strength, even if it meant death. After Tantai Lian brutally killed her opponent in the 2nd round, her opponent also admitted defeat in the following round. Amongst the 5 seeded contestants, Yi Mingho was the most miserable. Although he won every time, he was unable to kill anyone who dared to fight. Otherwise, he would have admitted defeat. It was obvious that the weakest of the 5 seeded contestants was him. It was only at this time that Yang Fan looked at Chen Hao with a look of realization. He regretted a little that his performance was too terrifying. Of course, it was only a little. After all, there were very few people who had the ability to kill their opponents. Other than the 4 seeded contestants, only Chen Hao had successfully killed all of them in the later rounds. This kind of perfect battle strength, scheming truly shocked Yang Fan. The 5th round finally began. Dongfang Jun did not appear and immediately admitted defeat, because his opponent was an existence that had displayed absolute strength. He was still young, so there was no need for him to risk his life. The chances of him losing were too high, so he might as well preserve his strength and welcome the next battle. After 5 rounds, 3 wins, 1 loss, 1 admission of defeat, 9 points. Dongfang Jian, 2 wins, 3 losses, 6 points. Finally, it was Qin Hao's turn again. This time, Qin Hao's opponent was Jian Fenglu, who had the same number of points as him and was ranked first in the 5th group. Jian Fenglu, the chief disciple of Starfish Kingdom, was a peak 9th grade Sword Emperor and had a powerful spiritual sword. Sword Emperor was a real swordsman who had comprehended sword intent. His battle strength was so high that before the start of the competition, he was evaluated by Huang Qi and others as a strong opponent who was not inferior to the seeded contestant, Yi Mingho. In the first 4 rounds, he killed 1 person with a sword and 3 of them admitted defeat. When he saw the 2 of them appear, Yang Fan knew that Qin Hao could not hide his strength anymore. All the disciples in the martial arts practice field were in an uproar, especially the camp of the disciples who had been killed by Qin Hao in the first 4 rounds. They were even clamoring, "Kill him, kill him." In everyone's opinion, Qin Hao had killed 4 people in a row by relying on a sneak attack with a flying dagger. Moreover, the opponents he had encountered were not strong. He was an existence that had walked into dog shit. Now that he had encountered a 9th grade Sword Emperor who had the strength of a seeded contestant, his luck was about to come to an end. Even those who knew Qin Hao's real combat strength held their breaths nervously. This battle was not only a battle of victory and defeat. Unless Qin Hao admitted defeat, it could be a battle of life and death. A swordsman, any swordsman that had comprehended sword intent, possessed a sharp heart that revealed its sharpness and pointed the sword at the sky, just like the tip of a sword. Considering your age, your strength is not bad. You are sinister and ruthless enough. You are also lucky. Unfortunately, you have met me. Your good luck will come to an end. When the referee announced the start of the competition, Jian Fenglu, who was 100 feet away, said casually, "Cling." As he spoke, Jian Fenglu unsheathed his sword. His sword intent, which was extremely sharp and pointed to the sky, started to wreak havoc. The corners of Qin Hao's mouth curled up slightly. At this moment his expression changed. The seriousness and caution of the previous 4 rounds had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by absolute arrogance. Arrogance that looked down on the opponent and looked down on the world. His eyes were as sharp as swords and could pierce through people's hearts. Clang. The silver moonlight sword emitted a clear and melodious sword cry as it appeared in Qin Hao's hand with a buzzing sound. It was the same sword that had been used in the previous 4 rounds and appeared in Qin Hao's hand. However, at this moment, it was completely different from the previous 4 rounds. The cold sword radiance, which had not been used yet, emitted a chill that made people's hair stand on end. Faintly, everyone was shocked to feel a sword intent. However, it was an ethereal and unpredictable sword intent. Hiss. The sound of air being torn apart was heard. Qin Hao did not give his opponent a chance to be shocked. He took a step forward, held his sword and attacked. "You are courting death." Boom. Jian Fenglu's slightly shocked expression immediately turned into anger. He did not expect Qin Hao to have hidden his strength. In fact, it was not only him who did not expect this. Besides those who knew Qin Hao well, no one else expected this. This was because Qin Hao's disguise was too realistic. In every battle, he was clearly injured. Moreover, it was not light. He won every battle with great difficulty. Hiss. Once Jian Fenglu attacked, he was like an unsheathed sword. He became one with the sword and emitted terrifying sword radiance that went against Qin Hao. The distance of 100 zhang was covered in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. After a short period of intense sword radiance, the 2 of them were competing with real strength and sword skills. Jian Fenglu displayed the terrifying strength of a swordsman. His moves were ever-changing and were as fast as lightning. However, Qin Hao, who was not favored, was not at a disadvantage at all. With the moonlight sword in his hand, Jian Fenglu attacked the vital points of Jian Fenglu. What was more shocking was that Jian Fenglu, a 9th grade Sword Emperor, did not have the slightest advantage in terms of absolute strength. Ding ding ding. In an instant, 10 moves were exchanged. Both of them were pushed back 10 zhang. Thunderous sword. After a slight pause, Jian Fenglu felt how powerful Chen Hao was. Without any hesitation, he stabbed again and executed his most powerful sword skill. Rumble. Kacha, a thunderous sword radiance seemed to tear through the void. It was as fast as lightning and went straight for Chen Hao's throat. Chen Hao's eyes narrowed. The origin energy in his body suddenly poured into the moonlight sword violently. With a flick of his wrist, 9 resplendent crescent moons instantly condensed into a huge full moon at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye. The cold moonlight seemed to have completely devoured the heat and light of the scorching sun. The entire arena suddenly turned into night. Only the full moon hung high in the sky and the moonlight shone in all directions. The bone-chilling cold energy was like a continuous wave of anger. Boom boom boom, it blocked Jian Fenglu's thunderous sword strike. Ding. Rumble. At the moment when their treasured swords collided, the terrifying shock wave caused the barrier that enveloped the entire arena to tremble violently. It caused the two figures to shake violently as if they were in turbulent water. What a terrifying sword aura. This Chen Hao actually hit his strength so deeply. Amazing! Senior brother Jian executed the thunderous sword technique. That Chen Hao actually managed to block it. What's the hurry? The thunderous sword technique has a total of 9 moves. Senior brother Jian only executed 1 move. That Chen Hao can block 8 moves at most. The last move is the real trump card, Thunderous Ninth Heaven, sword cleaves the world. Both of them were pushed back at the same time. Both of them flew back 300 zhang before they landed on the ground. Both of them had the same cold expression. Their gazes were as sharp as swords. However, their hearts were heaving up and down violently. It was obvious that neither of them felt good after the collision of their trump cards. You are indeed very powerful. However, it is impossible for you to defeat me. I would like to see if you can block my sword. Come. Thunderous Ninth Sword Technique, cleaves the world. Before Jian Fenglu could finish his sentence, he took a step forward. An extremely sharp sword aura burst out from his body and shot toward Chen Hao. At the same time, the thunderous sword radiance became several times more terrifying. The entire arena was illuminated by a sea of blue. One sword to decide the outcome of the battle. Victory or defeat depended on this move. Jian Fenglu was also forced to do this. His internal organs were faintly churning. It made him realize how powerful Chen Hao was. If he delayed any longer, he was worried that he would not have the ability to execute the strongest move of the thunderous sword technique. The raging lightning sword light rumbled as it swept towards Chen Hao. That boundless and terrifying energy caused the entire martial arts practice field to tremble violently. The eyes of the experts on the rostrum shone with a glimmer of light. As for Huang Qi, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Xingchen, and the rest of the people from the Jinyuan kingdom, they all widened their eyes nervously and held their breaths. Even Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, and Enai Jianpain, the 3 grandmaster experts, narrowed their eyes. Would Chen Hao be able to block such a horrifying attack? Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. There are 2 more updates tonight. Please give me some support. Thank you. Chapter 140. Third update, begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Dark Mountain continues to fight for the 4th update. Please, everyone, support Dark Mountain. If you still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. Under the cover of the lightning sword, there was no way to dodge. At this critical moment, Chen Hao's clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. His shrunken pupils shone with a sharp light, and he suddenly moved. Step back, sword down, body turn, bow, sword out, stab. Every movement, every detail, was clear and full of rhythm, but it was smooth and unobstructed, simple and direct, as if he was accumulating strength, causing time to freeze. Everyone could clearly see that Chen Hao's valiant protective aura was rapidly disappearing, and all the energy in his body were condensed on the treasured sword without leaving a trace behind. At the moment when the sword was out, buzz, the moonlight sword suddenly produced a terrifying sonic boom. A cold, resplendent, and solid full moon shot out with a boom. Crash. At this moment, even the super experts on the rostrum widened their eyes in shock, and Dongfang Ting almost screamed out loud. Madness. Selflessness. Yes, it was madness. Madness to the point of disregarding everything. It was selflessness, forgetting success or failure, forgetting life and death, only one sword. One sword that gathered all the energy in one's body and mind. After the sword was out, Chen Hao's face turned pale, and his energy was depleted. Everyone understood that his sword had drained him dry. There was no self in heaven and earth, only the sword. Boom boom boom, streaks of terrifying lightning sword light bombarded the bright full moon, but the moon that was condensed to the extreme showed no signs of breaking apart except for trembling. It broke through the lightning sword light like a hot knife through butter, and with a bang, it exploded in front of Jian Fenglu's chest. There were no screams, only blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and a bloody mist filled the sky. Chen Hao still maintained his sword stance. His left leg was in front of him, and the tip of his sword was pointed in the direction of the blood and flesh splattered everywhere, but his right leg, which was originally straightened, bent and half knelt on the ground. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were dim, but they were still as sharp as a sword. The entire martial arts arena was silent. Behead. A 9th-grade sword sovereign, a person who had a high chance of getting second place in the group and a top 5 contestant, was actually killed by Chen Hao in such a tragic manner. Number 22 Chen Hao wins. After being stunned for a few seconds, the referee's loud and shocked voice rang out. Without another word, Huang Qi turned into a stream of light and appeared beside the exhausted Chen Hao. He stuffed the high-grade pills he had prepared into Chen Hao's mouth and quickly brought Chen Hao back to the stands. Chao Xingchen was unwilling to pass on his responsibility. He placed his palm on Chen Hao's vital gate, and vigorous and pure elemental energy surged into Chen Hao's dried-up dantian. There was still one more round in today's competition. Chen Hao had to recover to his peak state in the shortest amount of time in order to continue. Everyone knew this, and all the contestants also enjoyed this treatment after the battle. Moreover, after 5 rounds, some of the 24 contestants in each group had died, especially in the group that Chen Hao was in. Up until now, Chen Hao had killed 5 contestants by himself, Jian Fenglu had killed 1, and another powerful disciple had killed 1. Out of the 24 contestants, only 17 were left. The duration of each round would be greatly reduced. There wasn't much time to recover, and every second had to be seized. Yun Fian stared blankly at Chen Hao, who had closed his eyes and was immersed in his cultivation. She, who was astute, had always thought that she had seen through this devilishly talented junior brother of hers. Although he looked cold and heartless on the outside, he was affectionate and righteous on the inside. He had a clear distinction between good and evil. Occasionally, under his passion, there was even a hint of shyness of a little boy. However, after today's battle, she realized that her understanding of him was not deep enough. Chen Hao's coldness, insanity, and obsession to win seemed to surpass everything. No one could stop him. This Chen Hao is not bad. If he can obtain the right to enter the 100 Empire ranking, our Flying Sword faction will take him. Xian, who was sitting beside the Empire's king, narrowed her eyes slightly as she stared at the extraordinarily handsome but pale Chen Hao, who was recovering. Although her voice was faint, it was overbearing. The other super experts who had similar thoughts heard Xian's words. Although they were helpless, they gave up on their plans. After all, the Flying Sword faction was a 6th-rank faction, and far from what they could compare to. As long as Xian wanted him, Chen Hao would naturally choose the Flying Sword faction if he wasn't a fool. Unless, Chen Hao could once again obtain impressive results in the 100 Empire ranking and gain the favor of many powerful factions. However, that was obviously impossible. Dongfang Ting frowned slightly. It was obvious that although Chen Hao's cultivation was not strong, his age, battle prowess, and talent had a huge advantage, causing him to gain the favor of many. Ming Hou, after entering the top 10, This kid might be one of your biggest obstacles? Are you confident? Under the same level of power, speed is the only thing that can't be defeated. Moreover, I'm not just fast. He doesn't know any of my trump cards, and he's already exposed all of them. If he encounters me, only death awaits him. On the other hand, Tantai Xian, a 9th rank intent emperor, might be a little troublesome, but only a little troublesome. It's not enough to threaten me. Don't worry, I have no problem entering the top 5. That's good. If you encounter him, you must not hold back. Even if you have to expose all of your trump cards, you must kill him. Otherwise, 2 years later, I'm afraid no disciple will be able to contend with him. Otherwise, our great Qian kingdom might be surpassed by the small Zhenyuan kingdom. Do you even need to say that? Not only do I want to kill him, I want to dismember him into 1,000 pieces. Yi Mingho said through gritted teeth. As a top genius, he was always the center of attention no matter where he went. Even the 3 great martial arts grandmasters of the empire's new show hall were nothing to him. The reason was simple. Although his cultivation was inferior to the 3 of them, he was young. When he reached the age of Ni Jianping and the other 2, his body and mind would definitely be much stronger than theirs. However, the 15-year-old Chen Hao had snatched away his opportunity when the remains first appeared. Although Yi Mingho didn't want to admit it, he knew that the legacy had chosen Chen Hao and not him. Naturally, Chen Hao had an advantage. This had already caused him to hate Chen Hao. In addition to the tit-for-tat at the preliminary competition for the rookie list and the auction, Yi Mingho already hated Chen Hao to the bone. The only people who can compete with him are Great Qian Kingdom's Yi Mingho and Desheng Kingdom's Tantai Xian. Very interesting. If there are no accidents, he will advance as the first in his group. Furthermore, his points are very likely to be the highest among our 5 groups. This Chen Hao's talent, comprehension, temperament, and luck are really enviable. After the competition started, Yang Fan returned to his lazy state and leaned back on his seat as he spoke to Li Yifeng. Yang Fan, you thought highly of him from the start. Could it be that you already knew? For the first time, Li Yifeng didn't deny Yang Fan's words. Instead, he asked curiously. Chen Hao had hidden his strength from the start and won by a narrow margin every time. His opponents weren't afraid at all and none of them admitted defeat. In the end, they were all killed by him. After killing one, it meant that those who didn't fight with the person who was killed wouldn't be able to obtain the 3 points. There were only 3 ways to obtain points: victory, opponent admitting defeat, and killing. After the opponent died, it meant that the subsequent battles were cancelled. Others couldn't use the dead to obtain points. Now, among the 5 people that Chen Hao had killed, 3 of them didn't meet Ni Jianping. However, since they had died, it meant that Ni Jianping couldn't obtain the 9 points. The advantage was very obvious. Even if Chen Hao lost to Ni Jianping, his points would still be higher than Ni Jianping. It's just my intuition. He made me feel a trace of danger. Yang Fan said with a slightly solemn expression. At the same time, he looked at Li Yifeng and said, if you and I encounter him, we can't underestimate him either. Is it that serious? Just now was already his limit, right? It was his limit. But my intuition is very accurate. The 5th round of the competition ended quickly. The 6th round, which was the last round of the day, started directly without any delay. In the first round of the first group, Ni Jianping once again met someone who admitted defeat directly. Experts were lonely. This brother was really too lonely. From the start of the competition until now, Yang Fan and Li Yifeng had more or less fought once. Although Li Yifeng's battle was similar to not fighting at all, he still made a move. But until now, he didn't even have a chance to make a move. Subsequently, Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, Yi Mingho, and Tantai Xian also didn't have a chance to make a move before their opponents admitted defeat. At this point in the competition, everyone was basically clear about everyone's strength in their hearts. Especially the few contestants who were certain to enter the top 10, their opponents almost all admitted defeat directly. Even the contestants with similar strength no longer fought with their lives on the line. If there was no hope of entering the top 10, who would fight with their lives on the line? If there was a 40% to 50% chance of winning, they would fight with all their might. If there was a 30% to 30% chance of winning, they would admit defeat directly. As a result, the speed of the competition became faster and faster. In less than half an hour, it was Chen Hao's turn again. In such a short time, how much could Chen Hao, who was completely exhausted just now and might have suffered a huge backlash and serious injuries, recover? This question was very worthy of deep thought. But just as everyone's eyes were fixed on Chen Hao, who was called up to the stage, with a boom, the pale-faced Chen Hao leaped up and flew into the arena. Suddenly, a woman's scream came from beside Chen Hao. Yunfian looked frightened and said loudly, "Junior brother, come back. You're already like this. Just admit defeat. Anyway, you have the highest points now. It's okay to lose one round." Chen Hao, fuck, are you crazy? You haven't even recovered 20% of your injuries. Do you want to die? Dongfang Jun also stood up and shouted loudly. At the same time, Huang Qi, Zhao Xingchen, and the others were shocked and worried. There is no such thing as admitting defeat in my dictionary. Chen Hao, who was standing upright on the arena like a sword, said firmly in a low voice. However, his trembling legs gave people the feeling that he was like a toad propping himself up on a table, stubbornly resisting the weight of the table. "Ha! I admire you." The other contestant from the Deqian kingdom was still hesitating, but at this moment, with a boom, he rushed into the arena and said with a laugh, "Your courage is commendable. I admit that you're very powerful, but you want to fight with me in your current state? P.S. Are there any more monthly votes? Please vote for Wu Shan. Thank you. Try to get the 4th update before 12 o'clock. Chapter 141. Junior brother, don't, Chen Hao. Admit defeat, come back. Yunfian and Dongfang Jun's voices were full of emotion. Their worry was unforgettable, as though they had seen Chen Hao's death. One vividly displayed the reluctance and longing of a delicate woman for the man she liked. The other vividly displayed the brothers' joys and sorrows, life and death together. Are you sure you can compete? Even the referee was angry. He couldn't help but ask Chen Hao. I'm sure. Chen Hao's solitary life technique restrained 90% of his aura. He glanced at Yunfian and Dongfang Jun, lightly shook his head and said stubbornly. But in his heart, he admired the performance of these two people. Originally, Chen Hao had displayed his true strength and did not intend to continue hiding it. But after hearing that his opponent was a disciple of the great Qian kingdom, anger rose from his heart and he became bold. How could he let his opponent admit defeat? So, that was the current scene. Moreover, other than Huang Qi and a few others who knew, no one suspected that Chen Hao was faking it. After all, Chen Hao's rest time was too short. Not to mention whether he was injured from the attack that surpassed his cultivation level. Even if he was not injured, he who had been drained of his essence and spirit had at most recovered 40% of his battle strength. Even the astute Yang Fan believed that Chen Hao would give up on this meaningless match. Losing this match would not have much of an impact on him, who was in the lead. But Chen Hao wanted to fight. And he was so determined. How could this be? Yang Fan was very puzzled. With Chen Hao's deep scheming, would he die for a single breath? No, definitely not. Yang Fan frowned slightly and said in his heart. Then, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. This fellow, could it be that he has really recovered? The match begins. The referee gave the order with difficulty. That guy from the great Qian kingdom was precisely waiting for those words. Right after the referee's words left his mouth, he immediately unleashed all of his origin power. As a peak rank 8 martial emperor, how could he possibly let go of such an extremely rare opportunity? He took a step forward, raised his sword, and thrust his spear forward. He directly became one with his sword and condensed his strongest attack. He didn't even bother to release the sword light. He wanted to use his advantage of strength to destroy Chen Hao, who had been arrogant until now, with a single sword strike. Chen Hao's legs were trembling, his face was pale, and his pupils contracted. He could only watch helplessly as his insufferably arrogant opponent approached him like a bolt of lightning. 300 meters, 500 meters, 10 meters, 10 meters. Seeing that the terrifying sword was about to stab into Qin Hao's body, everyone's eyes widened. Some of them couldn't help but cry out in alarm. But at this moment, when he was only 10 feet away from Qin Hao, the aura that Qin Hao had restrained suddenly exploded like a flash flood. Whoosh! With a sweep of his sword, 9 resplendent crescent moons, like a string of pearls, rumbled as they smashed toward that brain-damaged guy. At the same time, Qin Hao's body suddenly fell backwards. His knees were on the ground, and his entire body was lying on the ground. Nimbly and elegantly, like an antelope's horn, he elegantly and heroically raised his sword. Pooh! His sword pierced through the opponent's heart. Immediately after, his body soared into the sky, streaked across a beautiful arc, and arrived above his opponent. Then, he violently pressed down. With a bang, his opponent was firmly pinned to the hard ground made of special materials. Idiot! Qin Hao looked at his opponent's eyes that were wide open in death and coldly spat out 2 words. Then, he directly unsheathed his sword, and with a sway of his body, floated down from the stage. How could there be a trace of paleness on his extraordinarily handsome and callous face? At this moment, Yang Fan, who had been praising Qin Hao to a certain extent, finally showed a trace of sluggishness in his eyes. He muttered 2 words, "Monster." Awesome. Li Feng's expression was even more shocked as he said, "What an abnormal recovery ability." This time, the beautiful girl Tan Tai Lien, who was as delicate as a lotus flower, finally had a trace of astonishment in her eyes. Her black eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and a trace of seriousness appeared on her beautiful little face. Even when Qin Hao had defeated Jian Fenglu, she had not taken it seriously at all. But now, Qin Hao's abnormal recovery ability, as well as his absolutely strong physical body, made her have no choice but to re-evaluate Qin Hao's strength. Especially, even with her 9th stage Emperor Yi's super strong perception, she had not discovered Qin Hao's disguise. She had originally thought that she had seen through Qin Hao, but now, it had become hazy once again. He has killed all 6 rounds. This Qin Hao is actually so powerful, it's too unbelievable. Now that he has 18 points, he is at the top of the list. He must have appeared in the group. He has killed 6 people by himself, and 4 of them were people that senior brother and I did not meet. This is an irreversible gap of 12 points. Senior brother and I cannot compare. Yes. Senior brother and I is really pitiful. After 6 rounds, no one dared to fight him. If another person like Qin Hao appears, won't senior brother and I, who is a 2nd stage martial great master and the #1 expert, be eliminated? How is that possible? If that really happened, we can't use points to count. We can't let a true expert be eliminated. If Qin Hao had met senior brother and I and admitted defeat, would Qin Hao be allowed to fight? Even an idiot would understand this logic. The experts of the arbitration group would definitely not make such a low-level mistake. That's right. Haha, if Qin Hao did not admit defeat, with senior brother Ni's personality, he would not hesitate to kill him. Senior brother Ni places a lot of importance on being #1. No one can fight with him for #1. Of course. How can the chief disciple of our empire's new show hall be under someone else? However, Qin Hao will definitely admit defeat. He only wants to advance and compete with the Mingho of the Great Qian Kingdom and the Beauty Tantai Lian of the Great Victory Kingdom, as well as the chief disciples of our Black Tortoise and Kylan palaces. The top 3 will be ours without any suspense. Let's see who these 2 places belong to. In the noisy discussion of the crowd, the 6 rounds of the competition finally ended, and night quietly fell. In the autumn night, the autumn air was refreshing, the cool breeze was gentle, and the stars were bright. Everyone in the Jinyuan kingdom was in high spirits, and their faces were glowing. Yunfian was like a big sister, not restrained in the slightest. Under everyone's gaze, she intimately held onto Qin Hao's arm. Surrounded by the crowd, they cheerfully walked out of the palace and flew into the air, quickly returning to the courtyard arranged by the empire's new show hall. In the short span of a day, Chen Hao's status in the hearts of all the important figures in the Jinyuan kingdom had risen again. Although it was still uncertain whether Chen Hao would be qualified to enter the 100 Empire ranking, the clouds and mist had cleared, and the sun and moon had revealed themselves. It was much clearer than before the competition started. There was a lot of hope. After returning to the courtyard, even Yunfian did not dare to disturb Chen Hao. Without a doubt, the later rounds of the competition would be more dangerous. Therefore, Chen Hao only calmly enjoyed everyone's compliments and reminders for the upcoming competition with a neither servile nor overbearing expression, and then walked into the room alone. To fight or not to fight? In the cultivation room, Chen Hao sat cross-legged. However, he was not immersed in cultivation. Instead, he was thinking about what to do if he met Ni Jianpain, second-grade martial ancestor realm. Furthermore, until now, Ni Jianpain had not had the chance to make a move. Chen Hao simply could not guess what kind of battle strength such a super genius disciple had. This was not something that could be measured by demonic beasts. The sword had been unsheathed, and its sharpness was fully revealed. Chen Hao, who emitted arrogance in his bones, was naturally more inclined to pull out his sword and advance triumphantly. The battle intent in his bones was like a burning flame, completely erupting. But, facing a second-grade martial ancestor realm, Chen Hao did not have the slightest confidence, especially when his opponent did not make a move. From the beginning to the end, even his gaze did not change in the slightest. His aura was as heavy as a mountain, as if all the participating disciples were not qualified to enter his sight. This kind of arrogance and confidence was not the arrogance of a clown, but was built on absolute strength. In his mind, he slowly filtered through the scenes he had seen today one by one, as if they were images. Finally, he locked onto a few figures. Ni Jianpain was unfathomable and could not be seen through. Yang Fan and Li Feng also had outstanding strength and could not be seen through. Especially Yang Fan's shocking sword, it was extremely terrifying. Even Chen Hao did not have the confidence to retreat unscathed, not to mention that Yang Fan had only used one sword. It was almost certain that these three people would occupy 3 spots. Next was Tan Tai Lien. From the beginning, Chen Hao had treated Tan Tai Lien as one of his strongest competitors. How could a 9th-grade Emperor realm intent be simple? Especially after Tan Tai Lien displayed a terrifying mental attack, Chen Hao was even more certain of her strength. Then there was Yi Mingho, who was tit for tat, and who wished to cut the other into pieces. Intuition told Chen Hao that Yi Mingho was definitely hiding a trump card that had not been revealed until now. He definitely could not be underestimated. As for the others, the most threatening ones were the 2 first seats of the Empire's new show hall, the Black Tortoise Hall, and the Qilin Hall. Chen Hao had a 70% chance of winning. Other than that, there was nothing else worthy of Chen Hao's attention. That damned eunuch Yin Fenghan. Even if he could make it into the top 10, he would be trampled on. If he met him and did not know what was good for him and dared to fight, there would only be one result: death. I'll not fight for now. I'll make sure to make it into the top 10 first. Chen Hao's brows relaxed, and he suppressed the battle intent in his heart. Not being afraid did not mean that he would take the risk. There was no such thing as admitting defeat in the dictionary. Only an idiot would believe that. Phew! Letting out a long sigh, Chen Hao's eyes shone with a bright light. Today's soul-stirring battle had given him a lot of enlightenment. The origin energy in his dantian and the mental strength in his mind had become more condensed, and had faintly reached the peak of the 7th-grade Emperor realm. Whether or not he could comprehend the barrier was a small matter, but if he wanted to break through, Chen Hao knew that it was impossible. His powerful mortal body, dual cultivation of martial and intent, as well as the fact that these 2 barriers had fused into one, made it increasingly difficult for Chen Hao to break through. The main reason for this was that the amount of energy he needed to break through each barrier increased exponentially with each breakthrough. Compared to others, it was simply inconceivable. 4th update, finally completed before midnight. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. To vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 143. First update. Today, Dark Mountain will still fight. I can't guarantee that it will be done before midnight, but no matter how late it is, it will be done. I beg my brothers and sisters to fight with Dark Mountain and vote for Dark Mountain. I beg for votes. Dawn broke. A new day arrived in the blink of an eye. Chen Hao wore white clothes and had a refreshed expression. As he bathed under the morning sunlight, his handsome and extraordinary face flickered with a faint sheen. His composed and unhurried footsteps and his calm and concentrated aura seemed to be no different from yesterday, yet the feeling he gave others was no longer the same. His powerful battle strength unknowingly gave him a halo in the eyes of the people. This was power, this was power, this was the so-called aura. Under the escort of Yunfian and the others, Chen Hao once again stepped into the dazzling and majestic imperial palace. A new day, a new beginning, a new battle. This was the path of the strong, and also a path of killing, filled with thorns and mud. At every moment one would face the danger of life and death. Perhaps they would become the stepping stone of others, or they would kill their way out and stand out. Like the sun, slowly rising from the east, emitting a bright light. What this world lacked the most was geniuses. What it lacked the least was also geniuses. Only those who could withstand the cruel test of life and death battles could be called true geniuses. In the short span of a day, how many of the youths who could be considered top geniuses in the various provinces and kingdoms had fallen in this cruel competition? Under the gaze of countless people, Chen Hao's expression did not change in the slightest. But the aura around him became even more condensed and sharp. Like an unsheathed sword, he cut through the thorns and thistles. If gods blocked him, he would kill gods. If demons blocked him, he would kill demons. No one could stop his advance. When the time was up, the competition began. The 7th round, the 8th round, the 9th round. The speed of progress was so fast that it completely exceeded everyone's expectations. Especially Ni Jianping, Yang Fan, Li Feng, Tantai Lian, Yi Mingho, and Chen Hao. After 3 consecutive rounds, none of them had the chance to make a move. In the 7th round, Dong Fongjun encountered the damned eunuch Yin Fenghan. Even though he knew that he was no match for Yin Fenghan, Dong Fongjun, who possessed the protection of his treasured clothing and the powerful spirit sword gifted to him by Dong Fongting, did not fear Yin Fenghan in the slightest. Furthermore, with his cultivation of rank 7 martial emperor, he displayed battle power that greatly surpassed his cultivation. Although he lost in the end, he came out unscathed. Not only that, this guy also used his sharp tongue to make Yin Fenghan, who won the competition, almost vomit blood. One had to know that Yin Fenghan had entered the scene with the intention of killing Dong Fongjun, but in the end, he didn't accomplish anything. Instead, he was given the nickname of Dead Eunuch Yin. Not to mention his face, even his but was lost. Perhaps it was because he was in a good mood, but in the 8th and 9th rounds, Dong Fongjun was able to win by a hair's breadth against 2 weaker opponents. In the entire Group 5, his points were only second to the beautiful Tantai Lian and Yin Fenghan, placing him 3rd. Dong Fongjian, on the other hand, had won 1 match and admitted defeat in 2 of the 3 rounds of competition. Only in the 10th round did Yi Mingho's opponent not admit defeat, allowing him to win a battle first. His opponent was the first seat of the Martial Hall of the Empire's new show hall, Wei Chenbai. Peak rank 9 Martial Emperor. He already had a trace of the aura of Return to the Origin. He was only half a step away from becoming a martial ancestor. In the crowd's predictions, he was the one with the most hope of entering the top 10. In the 4th group, other than Yi Mingho, he was the strongest. Without a doubt, this battle was the one that everyone looked forward to the most after the start of the competition. Because up until now, Yi Mingho had not revealed his true strength. However, what disappointed Chen Hao and Tantai Lian was that even though Wei Chenbai had the strength of a half-step martial ancestor, he was still unable to force Yi Mingho to use his trump card. In a short 3 minutes, he admitted defeat and ended the battle. Everyone could not help but admit that Yi Mingho was indeed a rare super genius. The 10 rounds of competition that were originally scheduled to take place today ended just after noon. The judges announced that the competition would continue. When it came to the 20th round, Ni Jianping finally met Chen Hao. Originally, he was used to not moving when his name was called. This was because his opponents would usually admit defeat before entering the arena. There was no need for him to be like a clown, jumping into the arena and back again. However, this time, when the judge called his and Chen Hao's names, Ni Jianping jumped into the arena without any hesitation. Chen Hao had said yesterday that the word admit defeat did not exist in his dictionary. At the same time, Yang Fan, Li Feng, Tan Tai Lian, Yi Mingho, and the others immediately became alert. However, when everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Hao did not move from his seat. His expression was calm and he did not feel embarrassed at all. He said calmly, "I admit defeat." Voila! Boos and discussions immediately erupted in the martial arts practice field. What the fuck? Why did he admit defeat? Didn't he say yesterday that the word admit defeat did not exist in his dictionary? He actually admitted defeat. How disappointing. I'm still the wise one. I already guessed that he would admit defeat. How could he be senior brother Ni's opponent? With his scheming, it would be strange if he didn't admit defeat. Anyway, he'll definitely be able to advance from the group. If he fights now, what if he's killed by senior brother and I? Indeed. If I were him, I'd choose to admit defeat too. The crowd discussed animatedly. Yang Fan squinted his eyes and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He looked at Li Yifeng and said, "He really doesn't have any shortcomings. This kind of opponent is the most terrifying." Yang Fan, I'm sure that when this kind of person really grows up, he'll definitely be terrifying, yes. This kind of person would be able to remain calm no matter what happened. He would never act on impulse and would never do meaningless things. It's really scary. He's the same as you. Damn it, my only shortcoming is that I'm too handsome. I can't help myself when it comes to beautiful women. Sigh. I know this, but why am I willing to endure it? The handsome Li Feng stroked his elegant long hair. His expression carried a hint of sadness as he said narcissistically. Yang Fan rolled his eyes and leaned lazily on his seat. Humph. Ni Jianping, who was full of battle intent, had a cold expression on his face. His eyes were filled with disappointment and disdain. He glanced at Chen Hao and let out a cold harumph, before flying back to his seat. A person who doesn't have the heart to forge ahead will have limited achievements. I've overestimated him. Ni Jianping quickly suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart and restored the aura that was as heavy as a mountain. He directly beat Chen Hao down from the same height. For the whole day, all the matches were not painful or itchy. It was impossible to set off the climax and excitement of yesterday. It had to be said that it was very dull. But everyone knew that this dullness was like the calm before the storm. Before the sky turned dark, the group matches were completed in advance. It was similar to everyone's expectations. There was only a little difference. In the first group, Chen Hao obtained first place with an absolute advantage in points. Ni Jianping, the tragic brother, didn't even fight once and was placed second. In the second group, Yang Fan and the first seat of the Blue Sky Kingdom, Wen Beiming. In the third group, Li Feng and the first seat of the Qilin Hall, Nenmi. In the fourth group, Yi Mingho and the first seat of the Black Tortoise Hall, Wei Chenbai. In the fifth group, Tan Tai Xian and Yin Fenghan. Only in the fifth group, the two people who qualified slightly exceeded everyone's expectations. The damned eunuch Yin Fenghan probably suffered too much humiliation from Dongfang Jun and had nowhere to vent his anger. He actually erupted and defeated a strong opponent to obtain second place in the group. He qualified together with the first place Tan Tai Lian. After the referee announced the top 10 list, the vice leader of the arbitration team, Mu Qin, floated down from the rostrum onto the stage. The first stage of the rookie ranking competition has ended. Apart from the top 10 contestants, every contestant present will receive a great reward from the Xuanwu Empire and a title from the Xuanwu Empire's king according to your points and potential. Tomorrow, the top 10 round-robin competition will officially begin. Due to the importance of the top 10 competition, this year's top 10 contestants are rather special. The arbitration team has decided that in this year's top 10 competition, the arbitration team will directly determine the names of the 2 contestants. Moreover, each contestant will only fight once every day. Alright, that's all for today. Go back and prepare. Mu Qing had just finished speaking when the battle stage erupted into heated discussions. What did this year's top 10 contestants are rather special mean? According to convention, the top 10 competition would still draw lots to determine their opponents. But now, the arbitration team had adjusted it to directly determine the names of the 2 contestants. This was something that had never happened in the previous top 10 competitions. Everyone was puzzled, but no one thought too much about it. After all, the top 10 competition was still a round-robin competition and everyone had to fight. A day passed and Qin Hao also experienced the loneliness of an expert. Today, he didn't fight even once. The only time he had a chance to fight, he chose to admit defeat. Master, after returning to the courtyard, everyone instructed Qin Hao to return to his room to recuperate and maintain his peak condition. Qin Hao had already stepped into his room, but he suddenly stopped and shouted at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan looked at Qin Hao in surprise and asked with concern with a smile on his old face, "What's wrong? I want to ask Master for guidance." "Oh." Fang Yuan was slightly stunned. Intent is rare, and intent experts are even rarer. Until now, I have no experience fighting an intent expert. That Tan Tai Xian. I am not very confident. Qin Hao said frankly. "Let me do it." Huang Qi suddenly volunteered. Qin Hao was slightly stunned. Huang Qi should be more suitable than Master. What made Qin Hao even more shocked was that Fang Yuan actually said this without hesitation. What? Looking down on old man? Kid, don't think I am a rookie. Let's go. Huang Qi took a step and mysteriously disappeared in front of Qin Hao. Qin Hao stared with wide-opened eyes in shock. When did this gatekeeper uncle who had a good relationship with him become so powerful? Wasn't he just a peak rank 9 intent emperor? Peak rank 9 intent emperor was indeed the same cultivation level as Tan Tai Lian, but this old man was already so old. How old was Tan Tai Xian? How could such talent and battle strength be compared? Qin Hao had already guessed that Huang Qi was not simple, but as his cultivation level rose, the originally incomparably powerful Huang Qi was no longer as strong as before. But at this moment, Huang Qi's simple step made Qin Hao realize with shock that this was not something a peak rank 9 intent emperor could do. P.S. Requesting monthly votes, recommendation votes. Today, I will fight to the death. Please give me some encouragement and support. Thank you. Chapter 144. Second update. Dark Mountain will continue to vote for the third and fourth updates with all its might. Brothers and sisters who still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. There is a difference of 20 votes between us and the first place. Can you help Dark Mountain catch up a little? Please. In the cultivation room. When Qin Hao walked in with a wisp of surprise on his face, Huang Qi was already sitting cross-legged at the center. His body flickered with a strange fluctuation that rippled outwards like ripples on the surface of a tranquil lake. Huang Qi's eyes were slightly closed, and his brows were tightly knit. It seemed like he was enduring an enormous amount of pain. Hiss hiss. The gentle ripples vibrated more and more intensely, gradually becoming extremely ferocious, as if they had transformed into the churning waves of the sea, surging and surging. It actually made Qin Hao feel as if he was in the depths of the sea, as if he could be drowned at any time. Woo-woo, violent gusts of wind suddenly swept up in the huge cultivation room. Huang Qi's white hair and beard danced in the wind. His clothes fluttered like balloons. Qin Hao widened his eyes in shock. At that moment, he could clearly feel the terrifying power in Huang Qi's body. It was like an ancient beast that no one could stop. Was he still the cheerful and approachable gatekeeper? Phew! Qin Hao was stunned for several minutes before the violent fluctuations in the cultivation room suddenly calmed down with Huang Qi's deep and even exhalation. Eventually, they disappeared. The feeling of strength is so good. Huang Qi's old face revealed a complacent smile that seemed to have disappeared for countless years. He narrowed his eyes and stared at his hands that had become ruddy, plump, and no longer aged. After he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Chen Hao. Cough cough, Uncle Huang, what are you doing? Chen Hao looked at the breathtaking eyes in shock and said in disbelief, You brat! How dare you look down on the old man? How is it? Am I strong enough? Very strong. Besides Mu Qing, Dong Fong Ting, and the others, I haven't seen anyone stronger than Uncle Huang. Of course, they might not necessarily be stronger than you, Uncle Huang. Chen Hao spoke without hesitation with a trace of flattery. In reality, Chen Hao couldn't sense who was stronger between Huang Qi and Mu Qing. Because no matter who it was, they all surpassed him by too much. There was no way to tell. But that didn't mean that Treasure Hunter's sword spirit couldn't. Your boot-licking uncle likes it. However, they're indeed nothing in front of me, Huang Qi said proudly. From his expression and tone, it seemed as if he really didn't think much of Mu Qing and the other experts. When he spoke up to this point, his eyes suddenly narrowed slightly as he stared at Chen Hao and said, This is the first time in 60 years that the old man has broken the seal. Because of you, I'm afraid that I'll have to be sealed for another 8 to 10 years or even longer. Hearing Huang Qi's words, Chen Hao scratched his head awkwardly and could not help but ask, Uncle Huang, why did you seal your power? I'm afraid of death. Treasure Hunter's sword spirit said in Chen Hao's mind. I'm afraid of death. Huang Qi said almost at the same time. Afraid of death? Chen Hao was shocked. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't have said it. But you, as long as nothing unexpected happens, you'll definitely be able to advance to my realm. There's no harm in telling you first. Huang Qi said. After a slight pause, he continued, The path of cultivation is to seize fate from the heavens and go against the heavens. All the realms of martial artists and those with intent might seem very powerful to you, but in fact, it's just the beginning. It's also within the scope of the heavenly Tao's laws. Compared to the higher realms, it's considered smooth sailing and there won't be any hardships. The higher realms are the realms that transcend the realm of martial artists? That's right. Cultivators, from apprentice level to master level, are collectively known as the acquired realm. Saint level to god level are known as the connate realm. The aura on your body has clearly grasped the mysteries of the 5 elements and the yin and yang of heaven and earth. It's only a matter of time before you step into the peak of the connate realm. Only after breaking through to the connate realm can you be considered to have truly entered the realm. At that time, every realm you advance is going against the heavens and changing your fate. If you succeed, your cultivation and lifespan will increase. If you fail, your body and soul will be destroyed. The first realm after the connate realm is the golden core realm. And I, your uncle, am in the second realm, the nascent soul realm. Golden core realm, nascent soul realm? Chen Hao's expression changed as he said with an extremely shocked expression. At this moment, the Taoist techniques recorded in the Taoist canon secrets involuntarily appeared in his mind. When he was together with Xia Yuyu, although they talked about another realm, Xia Yuyu didn't mention the specific names of the realms. After all, Chen Hao was still too weak. The difference was too great. The nascent soul realm is the first checkpoint of cultivators. It's restricted by the heavenly Tao's laws. Once one's aura reaches the peak of the nascent soul realm, it will trigger heavenly punishment. Countless cultivators have been destroyed in body and soul at this checkpoint. And I, your uncle, am still not ready. Therefore, I have to seal my strength and comprehend the heavenly Tao's laws. When I said I'm afraid of death, that's it? All right, I know you still have a lot of questions, but you won't understand even if I say more now. You'll naturally understand when you reach the right realm. There's not much time left. I'll control my strength to be slightly higher than Tantai Lian's and fight with you as much as possible. Show me all of your abilities. All right. Thank you, Uncle Huang, Chen Hao said. In fact, Chen Hao did have some questions, but there was no need for Huang Qi to answer them. The myriad great Taos all lead to the same destination. On another level, he had already merged with the cultivators from Earth. With the Taoist canon secrets, Chen Hao basically had no more problems. Huang Qi waved his big sleeve, and the whole cultivation room was enveloped in a layer of powerful restriction. After a moment, the old man and the young man fought fiercely. After a full 2 hours, Huang Qi came out of Chen Hao's cultivation room and returned to the appearance of the gatekeeper uncle. The terrifying aura around him was also sealed. There was a trace of relief on his old face. The next day, early in the morning, the gates of the imperial palace slowly opened under everyone's anticipation. Countless important figures of the empire flocked in with invitations. At the same time, the imperial family, the top families, and the people who weren't present before the group stage also rushed into the martial arts practice field, which symbolized the highest standards and level of the empire. The members of the imperial family, the patriarchs of the top families, important figures, genius disciples, and other people whose cultivations might not be high, but their identities were definitely respected. They had all rushed to the martial arts practice field before the start of the competition. The manager of the Xuanwu auction house, Shuya, was also among them. Sister Shuya, after the competition is over, you must help Xiaoying invite him, no matter how many pills you have. Sitting beside Shuya was a beautiful little girl who looked to be around 11 or 12 years old. She hugged Shuya's arm and said in a sweet voice, all right, big sister will try her best, but I can't guarantee that he'll agree. Moreover, we have to pray that nothing happens to him in the competition. There definitely won't be any accidents. When the time comes, remember to bring Xiaoying along. If he doesn't agree, I'll just beg him. The little girl's beautiful eyes shone with confidence. You little girl, you only know how to pester people? If you let your father do it, you might not even need to waste the pills. You just have to make big sister do it. If big sister does it, it means that the auction house wants it. That won't do. Xiaoying wants to give father a birthday present. If father knows, he won't be surprised. All right, you have a lot of treasures anyway. Of course, the little girl said proudly. After a slight pause, she looked up at Shuya and said, Sister Shuya, is he really 15 years old? He's only 3 years older than Xiaoying, but his cultivation is so high. He's also a sculptor genius, so powerful. You'll be even more powerful in the future. You're only 12 years old and you're already a martial emperor. I think Yi Mingho and Tantai Lian have a higher chance. Yi Mingho hasn't revealed his true strength yet. Tantai Xian is a 9th stage emperor of will, which is even more terrifying. As for that Chen Hao, he's the most scheming, but the battle with Jian Fenglu should be his limit. He's not very strong. Wrong. I think Chen Hao is the most likely. You didn't watch the 8-nation preliminaries, so you probably don't know that Chen Hao has a numinous treasure, right? I know, I've heard about it long ago. It's said that it's a circle that contains the energy of the 5 elements. That's nothing, right? Although comprehending the energy of the 5 elements is powerful, a martial emperor can't unleash the power of the 5 elements. Moreover, that numinous treasure is definitely a defensive type, and it's not very powerful. Otherwise, the weaker eunuch Yin wouldn't have forced him to that extent, right? The disciples of the empire's new show hall, who had arrived early, were discussing enthusiastically when they entered the martial arts practice field. Who would be able to enter the top 5? There were naturally no doubts about the 3 grandmaster experts. Therefore, the topic of discussion was basically focused on the 3 strongest competitors, Chen Hao, Yi Mingho, and Tantai Lian. If nothing unexpected happened, the other 2 spots would be born from the 3 of them. Chen Hao is here. When the group of people from the kingdom of Zhenyuan entered the martial arts practice field, Shu Ye, who was in the VIP seats, whispered to the little girl beside her. Which one is? The little girl obviously hadn't seen Chen Hao before, and there was a trace of excitement on her little face. Originally, she didn't know about Chen Hao's existence at all. With her age, there was no need for her to pay attention to the rookie list. However, when she heard that someone had carved a lifelike Mu Qing and that person was hired as the chief engraving master of the Xuanwu auction house, she, who was worrying about what gift to give her father on his birthday, suddenly had an idea. She took a piece of high-quality purple crystal jade that was 1 foot in diameter and found her etiquette teacher, Shuya. When she learned that the so-called engraving master was only a youth 3 years older than her, the little girl was surprised. When she learned that he was a member of the rookie list, she was even more surprised. The little girl was a super genius of the Empire's royal family that only appeared once in 100 years. She had advanced to the martial emperor stage at the age of 12. Her cultivation talent was absolutely terrifying. In her father's words, she was a genius that only appeared once in 100 years in the entire Xuanwu Empire. However, after learning about Chen Hao, she was a little suspicious of her father's words. It also made her very curious. Guess. Shu Ya smiled slightly. It's him. The little girl's gaze directly locked onto Chen Hao. P.S. There are 2 more updates tonight. Today's update is still the same. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. Com to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 145. Third update, 17 votes left. Brothers and sisters, are there any more monthly votes? Vote for Dark Mountain. Not stopping for a moment, Dark Mountain is fighting. There is a 4th update. It will probably be a little after midnight. Those who can't wait can watch it tomorrow. Begging for monthly votes. Fuck. The moment he entered the martial arts practice field, Dongfang Jun cursed out in shock. Even Chen Hao and Dongfang Jian were no exception. They had arrived early enough today, but they did not expect the martial arts practice field to be filled with people. There were close to 10,000 seats in the audience and they were almost all full. This was a phenomenon that had not happened 2 days ago. Why were there so many people? Moreover, even the VIP seats that had been empty were filled with people. There were very strong existences and very weak existences. But none of them were ordinary people. Chen Hao and the rest instantly became the focus of the martial arts practice field. All eyes were locked onto the dazzling Chen Hao in the crowd. All sorts of discussions could be heard everywhere. Some of the people who had watched the new talent competition consecutively played the role of commentator. 10 minutes later, the forces of the top 10 contestants all arrived one after another. The experts on the rostrum were also in position before the start of the competition. Mu Qing straightforwardly signaled the referee who was already in position to start the competition. After the discussion of the members of the arbitration team, a new rule has been set for the top 10 ranking competition. If the loser has more points, the winner's points will increase to 3 points higher than the loser's. The order of appearance for the first 5 matches is as follows. First match, Empire New Show Hall's Ni Giant Pain vs Blue Sky Kingdom's Wen Beiming. Second match, Empire New Show Hall's Yang Fan vs Empire New Show Hall's Nen Men Yi. Third match, Empire New Show Hall's Li Yifeng vs Star Luo Kingdom's Yin Fenghan. Fourth match, Zhenyuan Kingdom's Chen Hao vs Empire New Show Hall's Wei Chen. Fifth match, Deqian Kingdom's Yi Mingho vs Desheng Kingdom's Tan Tai Lian. Voila! Just as the referee finished reporting, the martial arts practice field buzzed and began to discuss. The new rule, without a doubt, put an end to the phenomenon of obtaining qualifications by killing the opponent. Obviously, it was also a set of rules that targeted Chen Hao's situation 2 days ago. As for the order of appearance, the first 3 matches were completely between the top 3 and the bottom 4. In the 4th match, Chen Hao's opponent was the weakest of the 4. Only the 5th match, the battle between Yi Mingho and Tan Tai Lian, was a true confrontation. It was obvious that the arbitration team's arrangement was to protect the strong and take care of the weak. At the same time, it was to allow the disciples who had hopes of advancing to the top 5 to have an early showdown. There was no doubt that the first round would determine who was stronger between Yi Mingho and Tan Tai Lian. It didn't seem unfair, but Yi Mingho and Tan Tai Lian were very unhappy. This arrangement was obviously the most beneficial to Chen Hao, who was their biggest competitor. However, even though they were unhappy, they didn't have the guts to question the arbitration team's decision. Moreover, Chen Hao was the one with the highest score among the 5 teams. Please welcome the first contestants, Ni Giant Pain and Wen Beiming. Ignoring the discussions of the crowd, the referee announced. After hearing the referee's words, everyone's gaze instantly turned to Ni Jianping and Wen Beiming's respective areas. Ni Jianping didn't immediately go up. Instead, he looked at Wen Beiming solemnly. Wen Beiming hesitated and finally didn't go up the stage. He said in a low voice, "I admit defeat." A second-grade martial ancestor, and a super genius of the Empire's new show hall. He wasn't someone he could defeat. If he went up, not only would he be humiliated, he might even lose his life. The second and third matches were also within everyone's expectations. The difference in strength was too great, and Nan Men-yi and Yin Fenghan admitted defeat. The fourth contestant, Chen Hao and Wei Chen, please go up the stage. The referee continued to shout. The Empire's new show hall's Black Tortoise Hall's Wei Chen didn't hesitate and flew up the stage. Chen Hao followed closely behind. Although Chen Hao displayed strength that was stronger than Wei Chen's, the difference wasn't too great. It was reasonable that Wei Chen didn't admit defeat. In the top 10 ranking competition, there was a huge difference in the rewards and glory one would receive if they could improve one's ranking. In addition, it was also a chance to show one's face in front of the entire Xuanwu Empire's upper echelons. Even if there was no hope of advancing to the top 5, as long as one had the confidence to survive, anyone would take the risk. Wei Chen go. Wei Chen go. Senior brother Wei. Senior brother Wei. The moment Wei Chen went up the stage, cheers erupted from two directions in the martial arts practice field. One was called out by the Wei Chen clan, while the other was called out by the Empire's new Excellence Hall. Chen Hao go! Chen Hao go! Dongfang Jun, Dongfang Jian, Yunfian, and the other young people in the Jinyuan kingdom who couldn't keep their cool immediately didn't want to be outdone. However, compared to the huge scale of the other party, it was indeed a little shabby. But right at this moment, a young girl's voice that carried a slight immaturity suddenly sounded out from the VIP seats that were high up above. The clear and melodious voice disregarded the existence of all the great figures and actually boldly bulged out the Dantian's origin energy, bringing along an extremely shocking penetrating force that directly suppressed the shouts of everyone. Big brother Chen Hao. Go, go. Walla, it can't be? Dongfang Jun, Yunfian, and the others were a little dumbfounded. Especially after seeing the beautiful little girl in the VIP seats, Dongfang Jun's eyes widened. Cough cough. On the rostrum, the Emperor of the Empire sitting in the middle suddenly coughed awkwardly. Even he didn't expect that his precious daughter would actually make such a shocking and strange move at this time. What made him even more puzzled was when did Chen Hao get to know his precious daughter, and they seemed to be very familiar with each other. She even called him Big Brother. This was simply unbelievable. How many big brothers did this little girl have? And she called them by their names. Chen Hao also looked in the direction of the little girl with extreme astonishment. The little girl's eyes were bright, and she was staring at him with a playful and cute smile. Beside the little girl, Shuya smiled faintly and stretched out her hand to pull up the little girl, Xianying, who stood up. Boom! At this moment, the arena barrier instantly enveloped the entire arena, and Chen Hao withdrew his gaze. Little rascal! Shuya stretched out her hand with a trace of affection and pinched Xianying's tender little face as she said, Big sister Shuya, now you have a little more confidence, right? Little Ying already called him Big Brother, can he bear to not agree? Shu Ying made a face and said playfully. At this moment, the voice of the referee for the start of the match sounded out, and the two of them instantly looked towards the arena. Boom! As soon as the referee finished speaking, Wei Chen, who had a solemn expression, suddenly summoned his protective chi, and his fighting spirit madly soared as he directly flashed towards Chen Hao like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, Chen Hao also approached. Wei Chen's strength is slightly better than Jian Fengliu's, so there's a glimmer of hope. Unless this kid is still hiding his strength. Damn it. Arranging for me to fight with Tantai Lian first must be the idea of the Emperor of the Empire. I really didn't expect that this kid actually has a relationship with the Emperor of the Empire. Yi Mingho stared at the arena as he thought fiercely in his heart. Even he had never thought that Chen Hao could reach this step, and even rise to the height where he had the strength to compete with him. At the same time, Tantai Lian also stared at the arena with bright eyes, and she frowned thoughtfully. Chen Hao simply did not expect that just because of the little girl's cheering, Chen Hao's identity was shrouded in mystery. Chen Hao did not know the little girl's identity, but Yi Mingho and Tan Tai Lian did. Who did not know that she was known as the peerless genius girl of the Xuanwu Empire that only appeared once in 100 years? Even if they had not seen her before, they could guess from the little girl's appearance, aura, and where she Saturday, boom, boom, boom. Wei Chen actually attacked all the way. The sword in his hand was wide open, chopping and stabbing continuously. Vigorous Yuan Qi surged out violently. Obviously, he wanted to suppress Chen Hao from the beginning and not give Chen Hao any chance to use his ultimate move. The brilliant sword light was accompanied by crisp sword sounds and rumbling explosions. Wei Chen became more and more courageous as he fought. His protective qi gradually retracted, allowing his skin to shine with a faint metallic luster. At the same time, his sword moves became even more fierce and violent. However, what surprised everyone was that under such fierce attacks, Chen Hao actually seemed to be able to lift the heavy weight easily. His figure was erratic as he wandered around in the fierce and dense sword light. Fist, palm, sword, 3 completely different ultimate moves were miraculously performed on him at the same time. It gave people the feeling that he was not competing, but enjoying the process of the competition. This was indeed the case. At this stage, Chen Hao did not need to hide anything at all. Sword skills, fist skills, palm skills, and footwork were originally ultimate moves from ancient Chinese martial arts. Chen Hao carefully integrated them into the ultimate moves of this world in every battle, displaying the power to turn something rotten into something magical in an ordinary manner. Until now, all the experts thought that Chen Hao was turning something rotten into something magical and displaying the most appropriate moves at the right time. Little did they know that it was because Chen Hao had integrated the ultimate moves of ancient Chinese martial arts. However, that was ultimately too restrictive for Chen Hao. Now, Chen Hao did not need to worry about what others thought of him. Who would question him about where he had learned all of this? It was the first time that Chen Hao was truly immersed in the beauty of the ultimate moves of the martial arts world when facing a cultivator of the same combat strength. This feeling of satisfaction was definitely not comparable to the time on Earth. At that time, Earth's spiritual energy was scarce and cultivators had died. Even real ancient martial arts experts were extremely rare. Internal force was a rare existence. However, it was different now. Chen Hao had vigorous Yuan Qi and mental strength, enough to display each of the ultimate moves, just like Xiao Li's flying dagger. Chen Hao believed that even if Xiao Li's flying dagger's mother was reborn, she would not be able to compete with him. This, while Chen Hao was immersed in the profound meaning of the ultimate moves of the martial arts world, the entire martial arts arena, including the experts on the rostrum, were dumbfounded. His footwork was erratic and unrestrained. It seemed that there was not much Yuan Qi fluctuation at all, but he was able to shuttle freely in the dense sword light. His palm skills, fist skills, and sword skills were integrated into one, and he was always able to easily resolve Wei Chen's violent attacks. What was even more strange was that Chen Hao was able to use the force of the opponent's strength to counterattack, causing Wei Chen, who was getting more and more courageous, to become completely disordered. His face became more and more ugly, and he became more and more flushed. A feeling of powerlessness made him more and more irritable. P.S. I am very grateful to Luo Shi's true love, Deng Ting, for her generous gifts and monthly votes. Thank you all for your gifts and monthly votes. I will not list your names one by one, but I will remember them in my heart. Every brother and sister who gave me monthly votes, every friend who gave me gifts, I am very grateful. Dark Mountain will continue with the 4th update. It's probably past midnight. I am only 17 votes away from the first place. Can I get any closer? Please. Please give me monthly votes. Come to give me your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.